Hello everyone and welcome to tonight's very special live stream here from the SES studios here in the Czech Republic in Prague. It's great for you. We're grateful that you're able to join us all this evening and we hope you're looking forward to tonight's stream. We have lots coming up, including talking to the developers here from SES Studio who've been working on the creative process of Washington. We'll also have Pavel Shabor a little bit later on answering Q&A questions from the community. And we also have right now behind the wheel showing off a little bit of Washington gameplay, our very special Stig driver. We have David behind the wheel, grateful to have you with us. He'll be showing off lots of different landmarks and roads from the Washington map itself, which releases on the 11th of June next week. So make sure if you haven't added that already to your Steam wishlist, go ahead and do that on Steam. And also joined right now in the studio, grateful to have you with us. If you'd like to introduce yourself to the community.
Hi, my name is Ondřej Dufek, but people in company call me just Duf. And I'm map lead of the American Truck Simulator.
Thank you very much for joining us. Appreciate you having us here. Thank you for your time. And
thank you for having me.
Maybe if we delve into a little bit of your history, when did you start at SES Software?
Yeah, it was a long time ago. I think like 5.5 years ago. It was autumn of 2013, I guess. It was after I finished my studies. I was looking for a job and I landed this position with SCS.
Okay, and how did you land the position? How was the process of actually getting into the development role? Did you just apply off a whim or did you have some experience?
I did have some experience or some connection to SCS because I was working with them as a contract artist like 2 years before. I was making some 3D assets for German Truck Simulator way back then.
Okay, yeah. Wow, that's really great. So you've got quite a bit of experience behind your back and now they're really being put to good use with these brand new map expansions as we're seeing here, Washington in the background. And so maybe what kind of got you into that sort of field? What maybe were some of your hobbies or activities that you did outside of work that got you interested in that sort of job?
Well, my hobbies are kind of broad, but from this artistic or video game development side, I like audiovisual media and art as whole. So I'm interested in film, music, fine art, architecture. I've studied architecture, and video games were like a perfect mix of the interactive media where lots of arts are combined. You've got the architecture design or spatial environment design, you got characters, you got art as a graphics, you've got music there, and it's like great combination. So yeah, I was always really interested in the field of the game development.
Wow, that's really interesting to learn that you've had like almost your hands in so many different areas and then you've got all that experience that's built up to where you are today, I guess. And you've got a bit of an interesting title here at SES Software. It's World Map Architect for American Truck Simulator. Could you maybe explain to us what that means? Because it's quite a big title.
Yeah, it sounds bigger than it really is. It's kind of new title, which we came up after finishing the Oregon, and it just means because the content creation team or the map team in our company is growing. I wasn't able to manage like 2 teams at one time, so other people, just like Patrick on previous stream, were assigned the role of the map producer or of a map DLC lead, and they are focusing solely on the production of the of the DLC, and I'm the leading figure above them, just trying to look smart. So, yeah.
You could put it that way.
So, yeah.
Okay, well, let's get into Washington a little bit. And we, like you said, we had a previous live stream of it and it looks absolutely fantastic. For those who hasn't watched that live stream already, you can look back on our Twitch, on our past VODs, and you can take a look at it for yourself because the gameplay is incredible. It's such a beautiful and rich map expansion with just so many different, I guess, biomes. You can go from green to city. And maybe we can talk a little bit about maybe the decision that was made to make Washington the next day after Oregon, because obviously there's a few places that we could have gone to, I guess you could say. There's obviously a bit of a decision, but why Washington after Oregon?
Well, I think, if I remember correctly, that the decision to make Washington after Oregon was made like way back. I think during the finishing stages of the New Mexico or something like that. It was like, okay, we need something green, so we're gonna make Oregon, and like Washington is kind of natural extension. We thought that we would be able to reuse lots of assets and to put the know-how from Oregon to good use. But in the end, yeah, the Washington is completely brand new. But the main idea was like this, and we wanted to finish the whole West Coast.
Of course, yeah, and that's such a huge thing. Obviously, completing as well that really historic scenic road, the US Route 101, which is such a fantastic road to have completely across the West Coast like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And maybe we can actually delve a little bit more into Washington, talking about the Route 101. Do you maybe have a favorite place in Washington, you know, that you've, like, I'm really happy with this area, or this came out really great, or I just love driving in it? You know, could maybe let the community know what maybe your favorite area is?
Yeah, this is convenient you are talking about it, because yeah, the Route 101, even in Washington, if it's not as coastal as someone would think it's to be, it's kind of different than it is in Oregon or California. Still, it's my really, maybe it's my favorite road. And there's lots of really nice scenic places and vistas, and I could also recommend the Washington 2 highway or the Washington 20 and US 2 highways. They are really windy, going through the forest, mountains. There are lakes, waterfalls, and it's all really, really nice. It
is, and it's for me, if I was asked that question, it's almost a very, very hard question, as I can imagine a lot of our viewers would know. There's just so much to delve into this Washington map expansion from what they've seen. I mean, there's so much more to explore already that it's hard to make a decision on your favorite place. I would find that really, really hard. But that is definitely one great area, is that US Scenic 101 route. And maybe if we talk maybe a little bit more about the creative process of Washington, because obviously it's always, you know, great to see the output of the game, but obviously a lot of people might not know obviously what happens behind the scenes, maybe the time length or anything like that, where, you know, the decisions are made, or when to start actually making this DLC and everything like that. So maybe could you tell us a bit more about the DLC creation process and the challenges you face in, you know, kind of each of the stages? Because obviously there's quite a few stages. The first one being research. You know, maybe you could get into that a little bit, how that process starts.
Yeah, the process of the DLC production or making of the DLC, it's really long and kind of convoluted. And the thing is, we don't have it perfectly nailed down because the company is growing, and we are always trying to iterate on the process, so nothing is set in stone. But the basic thing is that there's this decision, yeah, we're gonna make a Washington DLC, we're gonna do this state or that state. And when this is decided, we try to estimate the scope and time budget needed for the production of the DLC. So we are juggling with time and amount of work and amount of work power. How many people do we have on team, and how many projects in parallel we are trying to make. And we will make some rough estimation. There is also always some how to say, some request from the leadership to produce the DLC in some time scope. So we are trying to fit as many content with the workforce we have into that time scope. So we are prioritizing which cities to make, which roads to make. And there's where the whole research cycle begins. We are trying to start from the broad strokes, just to get know the topology of the road system and informations about economy and like this really broad stuff. Happily, right now, or for past 1 year. We have a new research department.
Okay.
So usually before all this research stuff was handled by the map team on the map side and by the assets team on the graphic assets asset sides, and it was kind of slowing the process down, and it was really hard to grasp some concepts really deep, and we made lots of mistakes, as everyone know. And we are trying to eliminate that by using the research team, which have more time and space to look deeper into some problems and topics, and they are kind of preparing the informations for us. In the end, the designer has to make his own decisions and his own designs. In the end, he decides what to put in the game and what to recreate. But we are not spending valuable time of map creation just by doing the research, because right now we have specialists for that.
Yeah, and also there's a lot of people as well, I believe it's correct, from the community as well, that input on the forums, on like the forums.scsoft.com, where we have a lot of people who also live in those areas that we're looking into research process too, that also input different ideas and almost like create research for that, right?
That's the work for the research team. They are not like community managers, they are working really closely with the community, with our senior testers and fans, and they are trying to get some information from local guys and to get to the bottom of the stuff.
Yeah, which is a really kind of almost fantastic collaboration, because there's nothing better than actually, you know, people telling you how it is from the place itself, you know, from the source itself, the people that live there, the people that, you know, community members there, which is really, really fantastic. So, you know, we always say it on every stream, a massive thank you to everyone that's kind of involved in that process, because it does make a massive difference, I imagine.
Because before, we usually had some noble intentions, and we created a world as best as we could. But then we got feedback just in the end when everything was said and done, and it was hard to implement or fix the mistakes when the whole product was ready. So we learned from that, and now we are trying to work closely with the community since the beginning, since the inception of the project.
Yep. And maybe moving on to another part of obviously the creative process of it, you know, talking about different things that would maybe, when things are starting to take shape, kind of like the roadmap layouts and maybe what choosing areas to include and exclude, kind of what's the process behind that?
It's all about information, filtering it, and prioritization. So as I said before, the scope of the project is decided early on, and then we are just iterating on it. Our world scale is 1 to 20, so it's really hard because you have to throw out 19 things from 20 and choose just one to include in game. And the map has to feel spacious, and it has to look real, even if everything is scaled down. So it's just the biggest task is to find the important, most specific stuff and put it well together so it doesn't look weird and that it looks authentic. So after research, there's the design phase when we spend a lot of time on a drawing board and prototyping. So some gray boxes, drawing on paper, trying to come up with the city designs and the road designs, and finding all the landmarks, and even prototyping some specific stuff around industries and this kind of stuff.
And obviously it's not an easy choice sometimes, because obviously there's also the process of optimization involved, where, obviously you can say, right, we want to add all these things, and obviously with Washington, Seattle is such a big city as well, and you want to include like the whole skyline and have that whole downtown area and all the ports, and it's like, yeah, this is great, but then it comes to as well to like, okay, is this going to be actually playable? Is this going to be an enjoyable experience for the player? Because obviously you don't want them to be losing frames, you want to have a smooth experience for all the drivers, and I imagine that must be a hard process as well, kind of tough decisions to make, those places work, and maybe sometimes even have new technology come out of that where, actually let's try this way of doing things, and I imagine that's a big part of it.
Yeah, again, it's a long process and really convoluted one. I think Seattle, it was it wasn't a simple task or like one piece of the map we would create during some time frame. The creation of Seattle, it spent like the whole project since the beginning, because we knew we have to have Seattle there. Mappers started prototyping, trying to foresee potential problems, trying to come up with solutions. Again, our artists was they were helping with creating some prototypes, gray box assets. So because you have to manage everything in once. You are trying to recreate something realistic, but you have to scale it down, and you have to think about the performance, because we are still aiming to be able to run on low-end computers. So it's always a challenge to pick the important stuff and optimize, and it's a really long iterative process when you are trying different stuff and working with programmers which are trying to help with new tools and new technology, and with a asset team which are also trying new technology and trying to prepare the building blocks as best as they could.
Yeah. And actually, coming on to that a little bit, you mentioned about the new technology. There are some new tools that mappers can use now. There's like curve items and vertex sculpt tools. Those are kind of newer things. Do you have any sort of insight maybe you could share with the community about that, about what those kind of tools do?
Yeah, of course. Curve item, it's our new building item. I don't know if any of the spectators know what
maybe you never know anyone who's out there.
What the building is, but it's basically a curve item for generating curve stuff like walls and fences and crash barriers, this kind of stuff. You cannot place each segment of the wall as a rigid piece. To put it together, it would be hell to snap everything. So it's easier to draw the curve and have the items to be generated along that. And the functionality of our basic building item, it's called building because legacy stuff, it doesn't make much sense. It used to be used for generating buildings, but not anymore. This curve item is a new iteration of this item, and basically it allows us to create better, more customizable stuff. Like in the past, when map designer wanted to create some crash barrier, and crash barriers in America, they are not like symmetrical. They've got different beginning and different end, because on the beginning you usually have the sign directing you if you should go to the left or to the right around the obstacle, and on the end it doesn't have to have this symbol. And with the building item, if we wanted to change the beginning segment, or if we wanted to mirror the crash barrier, we always had to make new building items, and it got really messy because we had tens tens or hundreds of similar building items, and it was really messy. Right now, the curve item, it allows us to have one single crash barrier, and we can customize the beginning, the end, even the middle part. For example, another use when we are trying to create some suburban fences or something like that, and I want to put a gate or door in the fence. Before I used to have like 3 separated models: the fence, the gate, and the other part of the fence.
Yep.
Right now, I can make it just from one single segment.
Okay.
And set up. Yeah, I want the door to be there, and everything is aligned and it works nicely together. So it helps us to create more realistic stuff more efficiently.
And that's fantastic for the players to hear, because obviously they're getting a little bit better quality maps out of that as well, and that's so evident from Washington. You know, the detail that's gone into this map is really fantastic, and I absolutely love just. We drove in this in a previous stream actually, heading to this area, and just like obviously the scale of the mountains in the background. You got the evergreen trees, because it's such a green state. Being the evergreen state is such a fantastic thing to see. And maybe you could explain a little bit, which parts of the map have benefited from an improvement in technology compared to when Oregon was made. So is there any places that have really, really benefited from those new features?
For Oregon, the biggest game changer was the new brush system, where we could color the terrain more freely, and and here in Washington we got the new vertex tool, and it allows us to sculpt the terrain a bit more. Again, it's more customizable, so we can make more realistic stuff, and it's also great optimizing tool and great bug fixing tool, because again, I don't want to go into technical nitty-gritty, but working with our terrain system sometimes can be tricky, and it can lead to creating lots of small bugs, like small holes in the terrain. And this vertex tool, it allows us to fix them really quickly. You can just push few vertices like you would do in Maya or Blender, and so it will. The benefits are wide, not just for some specific segment or section of Washington, but the game should have less visual bugs and more custom and great looking vistas. I think the general shape of the landscapes should be more accurate and nicer. Because also asset guys got new tools for generating landmass or landscape models, so they can prepare some hills and mountains a lot easier for us. So we as map designers have more items, more tools to work with, so we can recreate nice landscapes.
And that's really, really cool to hear. And obviously, Washington has benefited greatly, as you can see here, as we're driving down a logging cliff road, speaking of, to create that sort of terrain where you can see far off into the distance and have these, imposing rock faces kind of overhanging you, which is really fantastic to see. And obviously benefits the teams that work very, very hard on these maps as well, because obviously the better and more improved tools that they have, the more happy I guess they are in a sense, because obviously having new technology is great to create these things, and everyone benefits from it, which is really fantastic to hear. So thank you for your insight on that. That's really, really interesting. I'm sure the community loved it as well. And speaking of features, obviously for our team and players, if you could bring any feature into American Truck Simulator with just like a click of your fingers, what would it be? Do you have any kind of ideas for the future?
I'm kind of skewed, because as the game creator, I wouldn't like that much. I wouldn't appreciate the gameplay feature as much as I would appreciate some tools for us, because again the process is iterative, and everything can be better and more efficient. So from my side of view, I would vote for some better tools, even because MAP designers are never satisfied. Even if we got all these super new cool tools, we still want more. We still want to make more quality content. But from gameplay side, I don't know. There's again lots of stuff, lots of topics that come up every stream, every interview.
Yeah, there's lots.
I guess the most popular, and I would approve of that because the environments are nicer and nicer and more detailed. I wouldn't be afraid to step outside of the vehicle on some specific places and walk around the truck.
That'd
and
be cool.
Look how good it looks in the environment, to appreciate it, all the details that the vehicle team has put into it. And because the environment is kind of detailed, I think there wouldn't be that much problem of walking outside, but we will see.
Of course, yeah. And
it's not an easy task.
No, and I imagine it's also very cool because obviously you get kind of like a sense of a scale with everything. You know, when you're a normal human height, you can really see how big your rig is, what kind of trailer you're hauling. The size of the landscape, which would be really fantastic. And maybe just to get to know yourself just a little bit more while we have a little bit more time in the studio left. Maybe we could talk about maybe some of the things kind of outside of SES. Maybe we could ask, what are your top 3 games you've ever played or recently or ever played in total? Do you have a favorite 3 games?
Oh, these are the worst questions.
Yeah, they're the hardest, I admit. There's so many.
Pick your favorite child. Or I cannot speak about top 3 generally. Again, I can talk more about what I played recently.
Sure.
So right now I'm suffering with Sekiro.
Oh no.
So it's kind of masochistic because I'm not good at playing games. So this is long and painful process. And from recent memory, I think I've already talked about it in the anniversary stream. I finished the God of War.
Okay, yeah.
And the environments and the world design, it was a huge inspiration because these guys, they blew it out of the water.
Yeah, and I can imagine, even just the characters themselves as well really come to life. Obviously, with our new 1.35 beta, we have the GPS voices in it, and we have Doug, also Raspy, but also known as Geralt or Rivia from Witcher 3. But how cool would it be to have the people from God of War as well going, "Son, turn left"?
And you never know.
Yeah, it'd be a great opportunity.
Might come because the current state of the GPS navigation, it's just the beginning. So,
it is, yes. Yeah, it'd be very cool if we had something like that. And just to wrap things up, obviously we this weekend, and actually I'm not sure if it's this weekend or if it's coming up, but we have E3 and lots of big games around, being announced, etc. Do you have anything that you kind of have on your radar that you're like, oh, I'd love to try that out, or maybe you're waiting for something to be announced? I'm not really too fussed by it.
I'm looking forward to being surprised. Like I'm not looking forward to games I know that will come out. I'm excited about the games I know nothing about, or new announcements.
The surprise,
the surprises. So it's always a busy week trying to ingest all the information.
Of course, and many hours of watching as well at stupid time zones.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, thank you very much again for joining us in the studio. It's been an absolute pleasure having you with us, having that little bit of an insight of kind of what you manage and what your team does and what you kind of look after. So again, thank you for your time this evening. And we got plenty more coming up on the stream this evening. We have other special guests joining us from the team, as well as Pavel Shabor, our CEO, a little bit later, who'll be answering questions from the community. So do not go anywhere. We're showing off a bit more gameplay. We've got more to talk about the whole creative process and the different roles within the team. And we'll also be having some giveaways as well during the stream. We'll be giving away the West Coast bundle, which includes American Truck Simulator, the Oregon DLC, and the Washington DLC. Maybe something a little bit extra as well, but you'll have to find out when that activates on June 11th next week for the Washington release. But you'll have that chance to win that. That'll be appearing on the screen. So someone very lucky will have the chance to win Washington and have it before anyone else, which is very cool. Yeah. So again, thank you very much for joining us. We'll be back in just a few moments' time with more. Do not go anywhere. Thank you very much once again, and we'll see you again very soon. See you.
Bye.
Hello everyone and welcome back to our very special Washington stream this evening. It's great to have you with us. If you've just joined us, don't worry, you haven't missed too much, but that's okay. We will be recording this stream as well, so if you do want to rewatch any parts of this stream, you can go over to our Twitch at twitch.tv/SCS Software, and you can find the videos tab above where you can rewatch this VOD anytime after 30 days. And also joining me now in the studio, we have another special guest with us who's been involved in the creative process of Washington. If you'd like to introduce yourself.
Well, I'm Raven,
Nice to meet you.
and I'm kind of a researcher.
Okay, fantastic. And thank you for joining us in the studio tonight. It's
Thank
great to
you.
have you with us, and thank you for giving us your time. And maybe we can kind of start off how we did with the last person we had in the stream here. How you got yourselves involved in SCS? You know, how did you join SCS?
Okay.
How did you get into it?
Yeah. So I've started in the beginning of 2018. So right now I think it's gonna be one and a half year. And how I got to the company, it's I have two stories. One is short, one is long. Which one you?
Either one, up to you. That's completely up to you.
Before I lived abroad for a while.
Okay.
And when I came back to Czech Republic, I just took 1 year off. I was just doing, just doing nothing or doing some small jobs or whatever. And I was waiting for the right offer. And one day I've seen an offer from SCS, and I knew that it's the right offer for me, because in that time I already knew ATS more than ATS, whatever. And I just wanted to work here. The funny thing is, I applied for a map designer at the time, because they were also looking for a map designer. So yeah, I've tried it. I went through test. They liked my how to say it?
Skills? Or?
Countryside, because it's like you do some part of
Like a
streets.
test, yeah.
So I've got the job, and in probation time, probably trial, I realized that maybe it's not for me, because it's it's a very creative job or profession, and you have to be creative every day. And after a few weeks, maybe a few days, I just realized that I'm not so creative, or maybe I'm not creative at all, and especially when you have to do it every day. So yeah, it was this way. And then after the trial, we realized that my progress wasn't so good. I was slow for this kind of job. Yeah, so the time I thought, okay, I'm done. I'm of this job or this company, because especially when you are here for 3 months, or you see the surroundings and everything, colleagues, everything is nice, and then I was like, okay, I'm gonna lose the job or something. But lucky, because at the time, new research department was opening. It was, I think, April last year, so it's now 1 year and 2 months since we are in business.
Time flies.
yeah. And yeah, I've got the opportunity in this department, because as a map designer, when I was doing that test, you have to do some research on your own. And yeah, probably they realized that this research is very good, and I could be useful in this department. So yeah, I started again in different department, and yeah, here we go.
Here we are, yeah, wow. And our last guest touched a little bit about the research department and how it was a new thing that was put together, like you were saying, and that must have been quite exciting to be a part of something brand new, kind of a new team, to be like, yeah, we're the new guys, and we're going to do this, which is really cool. But maybe you could explain to us what were some of your hobbies outside of work? What kind of things did interest you and made you think, oh, I can apply for this? Were you doing some map design stuff outside of work, or did you do something completely different?
Of course, it's gaming industry, so all my life I was into music or movies, but how to say, not too mainstream stuff, but always kind of underground stuff.
Okay.
In music, I don't know, hard electronic or hard metal stuff. And same movies, like alternative. Now we are presenting Washington, so it's Twin Peaks, David Lynch, and of course.
Of course.
And underground and these indie movies, or how is it called, they are always on the edge. And to get to the gaming industry, still, I think, I'm not sure, maybe on West it's a little bit different, but in Czech, when you say I play games, it's still you are kind of on the edge because the society still thinks like
It's not a professional thing.
yeah,
or-
yeah, exactly.
yeah.
But you know, this year there was some statistics that it's more money in Czech game industry than in Czech movies, for example. But
Oh, wow,
not so
okay.
many people knows that.
Yeah.
So yeah, so still it's probably the history which was here or recent history. So still it's something like I believe my father still has no idea what I'm doing or what's happening. But yeah, that's it. So yeah, so all this stuff fit together and I'm here. And of course I was into games since 90s, early 90s. I remember Commodores and first PCs, first CD mechanics, and you know, so yeah. And my cousin always had a computer, so I was watching the game history.
Yep.
And sometimes I played something. So yeah. And out of this culture stuff, you can say I like hiking, so mountains and everything. So
Okay.
here with Washington, I just realized how the countryside is beautiful.
It's
and
perfect. Yeah.
I want to go there.
So would you like to go there one day, maybe to do some hiking or some climbing?
Yeah, probably. Because
Yeah.
to be honest, before I've been in Australia,
Oh, wow,
some
okay.
parts of Europe, but USA or America, it's never looked so attractive to me. I was like, yeah, because I had no information. Even when I had a job interview, I said like, yeah, I would like to prefer to work on Europe because America, you know, it's kind of boring. Now you know. With Washington, I can see how mistaken I was. Yeah, because it's just beautiful. Not just Washington, of course, because through the researching jobs, we go to many states, even West Coast, East Coast, everything. It's just awesome.
That's great. And yeah, we can really see it from Washington, the diversity of different landscapes and mountains, and
Exactly.
even, you know, going past through previously your season, you know, a desert, and that's just the West Coast alone.
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
You know, the rest of the USA, which is really, really something great to see. And I'm sure a lot of people will have fun driving through for themselves when they finally have the missing kind of piece of the West Coast and how to drive through it all. Like we're saying, for example, the Scenic 101 route, which takes you through all of those states, you know, Oregon, California, which you'll be able to see the difference in those landscapes, which is really, really cool.
And yeah, I could mention like I love American beers because I think no, actually not they are not originally from the US, but ales.
Ales, yes.
America has a big history in ales, so yeah.
Great.
if you say this one in Czech, it's like kind of blasphemy, you know, because everybody likes Czech beers and stuff. So yeah.
All right, and maybe we can dive a little bit back into your job now. Of maybe can you tell us about what a researcher does in SES? So what kind of day-to-day roles do you do? You know, you come into the office, kind of what are you starting to work on? What's your kind of process on that?
If I say it in a very bad way, we are paid for Googling things. No, it's what we say, but right now, actually, when I started in this department, it was only me on ATS, and there is another guy, Dirk. He's on ETS. Okay. So we were two people, two projects, two people. Right now, it's 3 people in European Truck Simulator and 4 in American. America is better because we have 2 nice girls. So yeah. And what we do, basically we search anything you can see in the game. Or still, the department started recently, but if we go in the proper way, when we start new DLC from the bottom, because we joined Washington in probably half of the production that time. But when we start from the beginning, it's everything. It's the map, it's roads, lines, signs, trees, rocks, you know, it's different colors of rocks in Washington or in California or New Mexico and everything. We just do everything what's on mind. You know?
I can imagine when we come now to talk about your involvement in Washington itself and the things you had to research Washington, my first thing that comes to mind, being the evergreen state, is that you've had to look at a lot of trees, right?
No.
No? Okay.
So the thing was because we started 1 year ago, or the department was created a little bit later. Actually, before it worked that you have map designers. Map designers are creative people, so they create stuff.
Okay.
And of course, before they needed information, and how could they get them? They have to found them by themselves. So you have bunch of creative people, and they had to Google stuff like which kind of trees and stuff, blah blah blah, wasting their time basically. So then we came and we said like, okay, they will do more productive work, and these leftovers, as I say that it's like a shovel job.
Oh, right, got
You know,
yeah,
you have to get through all this stuff. So that's our responsibility now.
Okay.
So still, Washington was started like that. With map designers involved in research. So we joined the group or the project in the middle. So no, I have no that information from the beginning, roads and stuff like that. Of course, I had to follow them or later, but we started in the middle. So my first job was Port of Seattle, because we need some details. How it works there, because we've got some few street views, and you know, okay, what's happening there? Where should we go if we are gonna put it to the game? What are we gonna do? I think I have some pictures. No, not yet. Yeah, if Dave, pictures.
We're gonna get our cue going on here. We're gonna have our
if you
pictures
can
coming
try
up.
2, 3, and 4.
There we go. Okay. So we got our whole graphics here.
Yeah, it's just some bits and pieces.
Okay.
Two or.
Number 2. All right. Let's have a look at this.
Yeah, okay.
Wow, okay.
It's a little bit skip. I started with T18, which is Port of Seattle, but another stuff was we were doing some facelifts for farms. So this one is how it looks. It's all the collected information on one pile, I could say. So we have like farm, what's what, because you know. For many people, you have just farm and there are some buildings, but how it works, if you drive there, it's not like cube or something. That must be, you know, that's some storage, some silos, some garage. It's so we had to find all the informations, all bits and pieces, how it works. Then we discuss it with 3D asset team. And they are just picking stuff, picking pieces from this, and they said like, I like this one, I like this building. Could you find more barns, for example? Because we will have, you know, we don't have mess there or workshop, but we will have barns. So could you give us more references about barns? How does it work? Where the cows are located, or we are delivering milk. So where should we load it and stuff like that? It should make sense. And of course the productions. This one are some maps from 2017. Basically, when we first start some state or new DLC, these ones are the first information. What's what are we gonna deliver or transport? So this one is agriculture. So you know.
Crops and plants. Wow.
Yeah.
So really, like, it's just quite cool to see, because this is something that I've not really even kind of had the opportunity to delve into myself. It's quite a lot. I mean, if it was to zoom out, we saw there was just so much content. There's a lot to take in, and it's quite overwhelming at the start. And I imagine, you know, a lot of people who are looking right now, I imagine, he just keeps scrolling. It just keeps going and going and going. And I imagine this takes hundreds of hours of work, right? To almost kind of get this collection of, you know, I mean, colors.
It's a big
types.
mess, actually.
Yeah, I mean, it looks very well organized. Like, props to your team, which is really, really fantastic. So, I mean, the whole process behind it is that you're spending all this time sourcing together different data and information and pictures and references.
Exactly.
And really just trying to get a feel for what's happening in the areas that you're researching. And you already mentioned that you already had your hand in some specific places like the Port of Seattle.
Yeah.
But what other cities maybe were you involved in specifically?
Basically, these cities. This one was a big one in Port of in Seattle. Then was Tacoma.
Tacoma, okay, yeah.
Port. But yeah, because we joined the project in the middle, we were not on each city. But if it's for example next projects, they were started that we checked every city from the beginning, because it was only our research. So we started with every city, every road, and everything. But this one could look like a big mess, but
It's nice, honestly. No, it looks
always
great.
when you present it to someone, you have to explain them like how they should read it. What's this part? What's this part? Many of pictures you can click on them, and it's open videos on YouTube, and it's external links, and it's it's so many information, and we have to filter them. Then 3D department or asset departments, they have to decide which one we are gonna have, and if it's even possible, to build it, or if we need them. Some of them are just background models, because when we have depot, usually it's the heart of depot, so that must be a lot of details. I don't know if we are talking about petrol station or gas station, bins, which bins are there, if they have fire extinguishers or something like that, all these details. So that's always heart of the depot or prefab. And then you have the background models, fields and everything.
That's incredible. That's
Yeah.
really amazing just to see. I mean, this is just one small part of what's included in Washington. This is just looking at farms, and this is just number of farms. And we're going to look at here we are. These are the Port of Seattle as well. So really, you have almost like an individual layout for each one. And I can imagine, obviously, as you've done a lot of research about the state, you would learn a lot of things. So maybe what are some interesting things that you've learned as you've researched this state? I imagine you've learned some very, very cool things, right, about Washington. Do you have any cool facts or anything that you've been like, wow, I wasn't expecting this?
Not with Washington, but it's from my private life, because it's been a while, but I've got a degree from transportation. And that time, it was before the internet, it's maybe 15 years ago, or we had no all these references. So one of my questions when I've got the final exam was the portal cranes. And basically when we studied that topic, the teacher just he draw it on the blackboard, and it's like it's portal crane, and it works like that, and we are just imagining like, okay, it works like that, it takes the container and stuff.
Yep.
And now 1 year ago, I first time I've seen it
digitalized in front of you.
Yeah, exactly. And I said
yeah.
wow, 15 years ago I was talking about this, and now I can see it.
So it's gone from having maybe the biggest stack of papers you've ever seen of library books and such like that, to now having the most full hard drive you could possibly have with all these photos you've been collecting, which is really magnificent to kind of see the amount of work that goes into that research.
Because you have many different types of that cranes. They have rubber wheels, or if it's on a rail, different sizes and everything. And that's the thing. We are driving in the depot. You just see that. So this one, all the details we were searching for, or we were looking for.
And those are the details that really matter to a lot of people, because obviously you have people from that state who play the game, and they'll notice those little things. It might be that they have a friend that work at the port, or someone that works on a farm and be like, oh, hang on a second, this doesn't seem right. So getting those details are very, very important, I can imagine, and it almost can be a little bit stressful to get those right, I can imagine. Be like, oh, we need to make sure we get this information that we need. And obviously I imagine you get, as we've seen from the farms, your sources from all over the place. So maybe you could talk about, some of the process of how maybe, we could start from the beginning, how the tasks are assigned, and kind of what tools you use to kind of research this information.
Okay. Just give me a second.
Yeah.
Basically, there's a new state, and I take Czech Republic as an example.
Okay.
You have a map, you have country, you just see the country, and you need to zoom. It's like zooming the map. So first you see the borders, then you zoom and you see countryside, mountains, nature, industry areas, and you make notes from everything. So you say like this part of state could be countryside, this part of state could be something else, blah blah blah. And then you are like zooming in, then you see cities. So you just have to pick up the cities, and then you have to connect them. So it's roads. So which road should be chosen? We don't live in that state, so you don't know the roads, because you have some special roads for truckers, but for us, we are looking for the biggest roads, basically.
Of course, the widest ones, so the most space.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, but that are the informations we are looking for. If there is some, I don't know, you have like some cult roads, like Road 66, roads like this. So maybe there are in each state there is some for truckers. There is some famous rest stop, or you just don't Google it. You just don't Google it like famous truck stop. So that's how community helps us with this stuff. But yeah, so still we are like zooming in. Then you zoom to the city. You see the city, so you just have to choose like this one is like urban area. This one is industrial zone. This one here are shoppings and stuff like that. So basically we use for this kind of stuff we have or we are using Google Earth.
Okay.
And you just put pins there.
Just throw everything around.
Roads, mountains,
Yep.
you zoom it, city, roads, historic center, and it's all about the pit. So at the end you have like it's just thousands of them basically. For state it must be thousands, and it's same. You zoom it, city, roads. Then we choose which industry, because we highlight all industries, but then okay, can we transport this one or this one? You have some potential new industries. So yeah, then it's not up to us. Of course, all this stuff we discuss with map design team and with 3D assets, and then of course we have to say like, okay, this one makes sense, this one not. It's like everybody knows Eiffel Tower in Paris, but trucks are not allowed to go there, so it's nonsense. We can do it as a background model or something, but in the game it's we are not gonna put it there. So yeah, so it's like filtering. You have information, heaps of information, and then you filter it, and then we decide, okay, we have city, we will go this way. Here is some main road. Here is some small road to the industry zone, and it's just how it's like a living organism. It's like growing under your hands.
Process, yeah.
And of course, then we have depot. So you go to depot, and what's that? What's gonna be there? I don't know. Which kind of example we can say? The farms. It's not usually in the city, but it's out of city. But still, farms. What should be there? I don't know. Will be there cows or horses or I don't know, buffaloes? Could be it's the questions like that. Could be the buffalo. Maybe could, maybe not, because in Washington they don't have them, but they have them in Florida or whatever, So it's all the stuff, because we have to make the decision like, are we gonna put it there or no? But still, we are doing farm for Washington, but still the heart of the farm, it's kind of generic, and then we will reuse it in another states. So we have to do compromise, like some decision, some compromise. It's not gonna be like new set of farms for Washington, new set of farms for another state, and so we have to cut a lot. And yeah, that's it. You are on the depot. You see the details. So I don't know, when it's livestock farm, so there should be some cows, probably some manure or something like that. When it's fruit farm, there should be some trees, I guess.
Yes.
And yeah, it's same. And then we use the statistics, because Washington, I think there is a lot of apple trees. So yeah, apple trees, and yeah, it's like that. And then there is another part. It's generic. It's generic research for the state. So you have thousands of roads. So we choose some roads, and then you have to use Google Maps, and you just click, and you are watching the Jersey barriers, crash barriers, trees, everything what is here. For example, these they have the exit signs, so the different part of the exit. So it's specific for Washington. Trees. I remember when I started as a web designer, you open the content browser, you can put into map, and you have just trees, and there is like dozens of trees, and this tree is green, this one as well, and you just place it there. But I'm not sure if it's Palo Verde, or it's like bush. You can Yeah, you can place it just because I think Palo Verde is just in Nevada, and you know when you're starting here, you are starting on this map. You can just put Palo Verde to Washington, and everybody in America knows that you know.
Yep, so
It shouldn't be here.
Yeah, and it's such an interesting process of it, because not many people kind of see what happens behind the scenes on that such early process when you're doing the research. Everyone always hears a lot about the map design, because that goes obviously a lot into the blogs and social media and stuff like that as well. Quickly before we carry on with what kind of more you're getting into, just been told that we are now going to be having a little bit of a giveaway for our people that have been watching so intently on the stream. This is your chance to win the West Coast bundles, a very, very special bundle that's coming out for Washington, and that is going to be including American Truck Simulator, the base game, Oregon, and the Washington DLC, so you'll get it before anyone else. That will activate on the day of release on the 11th of June next week. So you'll be in a chance of winning that now. The overlay will be appearing on screen. It might include something extra as well, but good luck to everybody. The key is appearing on screen that you can insert and activate on your Steam if you're quick enough. So good luck to everyone that enters that, and there'll be a few more chances to win as well during the stream today. Good luck to everyone. Okay. Back to the questions though. Let's get back to the really nitty gritty and the interesting stuff about this, because this is almost like a mind blow for me, because it's just like, wow, because learning so much about what's coming in. And you're talking about some of the sources that you use for information, like Google Maps and the Earth. And also I want to talk about a little bit Street View, because obviously Street View is just a massive game changer, right? Huge game changer, because having the perspective of the driver on the road could not be more of a valuable source for research, right? You know what it looks like from the driver's perspective, and I imagine that's almost like a daily tool you would use when you're on the road. Do you feel like it's been a massive help, or do you think there's still some things wrong with it? Like, I mean, obviously it covers a great area, but it doesn't cover everywhere. But a majority of the areas,
it's
right?
Like virtual traveling, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's of course. I can't imagine our job when we have no Google Maps.
Yeah, it'd be hard.
But there is one thing which we can't get correct, if I say it this way, because the architecture of European cities, Prague, it's like completely different than in US. So we don't have that wide streets, very wide. It's everything. There is a lot of space everywhere. When I was on New Zealand, I've seen the wide streets, and it's when you are there, it's completely different feeling than if you are here in Czech Republic or wherever.
Of course, yeah.
And it's same with US. They have very wide streets, but when I checked the streets from New Zealand on Google Map, you can't get the feeling of the space.
Yeah, of course.
That's some kind of limitation.
It's only through
like,
the lens.
Yeah. So you've never been to USA. You check the Google Maps and you don't feel the space. So that's the limit of Google Maps. But of course we have most of the references are from Google Maps, or it's the backbone.
Another big thing, though, however, that which you touched on a little bit earlier in the interview, but kind of wanted to save a bit more for you, was a lot of our community that's involved in the researchers' kind of job as well. We have a lot of the people who kind of play our games or are aware of our games on the forums, who are also helping out with research, for giving you help with kind of people that live in the local area. And I imagine that's another big way of how you can kind of get more specific information you're looking for that might not always be available online. So as well as the community, is there any other kind of like little tricks or tips that you use, or little other ways that maybe you get research that you need that's maybe very nitty gritty, or like you maybe wouldn't find online necessarily? Is there, because obviously the internet is such an open world of like information, but not every little thing is there just yet. Anyway.
So that's the thing. That's from, we have a lot of information from our community. It's back again when we started new DLCs before. We just seek the information from the internet. One of the sources is Wikipedia. That's the first look you see. You just check what's Wikipedia. You have some agriculture stuff and stuff like that, and you have information about religion. And then if it's like very religionistic region, or if in that country or its religion, logically there will be a lot of churches. So it's another information you get, but still there are some informations they are not on the internet, and that's our community provides us with all these informations, and they've done awesome job. And you know, I can't imagine now how we could go without their support, because you have, I believe, even when they started Washington, that there were some researchers from the community, and I believe web designers use them as well as references, because it's just awesome. You know, I can't imagine like that I spend my free time and doing some research for some game, and the time you had no idea if Washington will be in game or if it's gonna be there in 10 years.
Yep.
And they wrote like pages about this one should be there, and you know, so you have completely different point of view, especially with people living in that state. And yeah, that helps us a lot.
It's really invaluable information.
Yeah.
You couldn't put a price on it. You
Yeah.
couldn't put a price on it. You know, the way that the community kind of get their hands involved, and like you said, almost doing it blindly in the sense that they don't know, you know, what's coming.
Yeah.
But the topics are there for them, and they just out of passion for the, you know, for our teams and also for the game itself, just help. And then I guess it's easy to say maybe, because we're a little bit biased, but I'd say we have the best community ever, you know,
Yeah,
in that
for,
sense.
for sure.
Really, really
you
helping
know,
a lot.
it's just no doubt. But the point is, in Czech Republic, when you check the map, you have some restaurants, you have truck stops, let's say truck stops or something. But northeast from Prague, on the speedway, there is an airplane next to the road. It's just small restaurant.
Oh, wow.
It's just a bit cheesy, or you know, it's just restaurant.
Yeah, yeah.
But you don't find you will not find this restaurant in the map. But it's something which is a little bit unusual, and. You know, I drove that road many times, and I know that it's there. And first time when I played the game, Euro Truck Simulator, I had no idea that it's made by Czech people. So I was driving there, and I said like, oh my God, that's awesome. They put even the plane here. And that's the kind of information, because they are Czechs, obviously, they know the road, and they put the plane.
Of course, yeah.
But if there is something like that in Washington, we have no idea, because it's not in the maps, no tourists, no tourist guys, you know.
And maybe what is some of the best ways you can say that maybe if people do want to contribute a little bit more to the community, how they can help out? Say some people are like, wow, this sounds kind of like fun. Maybe what's the best way they can kind of involve in helping with future projects or map expansions? Maybe what would be the best way you could give them some advice? Would it be through the forums, or how would you say?
No. Actually, that's funny, because in the beginning we didn't use our community. Probably it was new department. We were starting with researches, and we had no idea what's happening basically. But then after half year, it was end of 2018, we've realized that there is a lot of content on forums, public forums. As I mentioned, these people, they've done just researches for states. I don't know, there was Oregon research, Washington, there are another ones. It's really great job, because it's just there, and it's like, you know, it's everything is there on one place, and for us it's just, hey, it's realize it's here, and then it's easier for us much more, you know. And yeah, so we are using forums. One guy, some people, they just write to the info@SCS. So, you know, it's I believe it's a lot of spam, and if you wanna join us, or if you wanna help us, I believe the forum is the best thing. You can support us, or give us some information. Let's say, of course, we have some public research, and you know, we are not gonna say, hey, we are working on this state, give us all the information. So we have to do, like, you know, we are on West Coast, so there are states probably. So yeah, there's 10 states we are gonna do next, and just give us information for all these states. It's I believe that for some people it looks like we don't look at it, we don't even read it, or something, because of course, when we are doing Florida and there is another states and someone puts some information about Florida and we say like, oh my God, it's awesome that you provided this information because we are looking for them. Everybody knows that it's Florida, so it's still we don't want to like it's spoiler filter or something. So that let's say if we have Florida there, it doesn't mean that it's that we are not gonna read it. It's just we are creating some kind of fog. Because we don't want to spoil it, and it's same with some people are helping us. We are in touch with them, and if we can surprise them, even if they provided us with a lot of information, it's kind of gift we can give them because we just ask about something and okay, and then they've seen blog and it was presented there and they said like, oh my God, wow, I had no idea that all this information I gave you is gonna be actually there, and
and that's that. And I mean, again, invaluable source, but also very rewarding for the people that contribute when they do see some of the things maybe they've contributed appear suddenly. For example, maybe in Washington, if people contributed to the research of this and they go, oh, I said about that, and it's there. It's honestly just like obviously such a nice thing to have. So definitely use the forums. The forums is such a valuable place, and for everyone that's involved, we give you a massive thank you. You really are a really massive help from all of us here at the SCS team. So no, thank you for your time and giving us a little bit of an insight into the research. It's been really fantastic and really even interesting for me, and let alone all of the viewers as well at home who are watching tonight. And maybe we just want to talk a little bit maybe about more generic ATS. We asked kind of a few questions to developers and researchers at the end, that maybe if you could bring any feature into American Truck Simulator with just a click of your fingers, what feature would you bring? Could be anything. Someone said Star Wars once, but you can make it anything.
It could be it could be awesome to have all the world map.
The whole world.
Yeah, but
wow. Big task.
Then we have nothing to do,
So out of the job.
So yeah. Probably to me, one of the things would be nice, the used trucks, if you will be able to buy used trucks, because if I imagine you can buy a truck from Steven Spielberg's Duel, the movie,
cool,
that creepy truck, it must be just awesome, and it will be more realistic because basically when you are starting company, you don't buy new truck, or maybe you can, but not everybody can do it. So when you start with something old, it's like more realistic, or start with vans, or buses eventually. It could be like transport simulator, not
that'd be
just
cool.
No boards.
Yeah, that'd be very cool. Yeah, and in terms of maybe games that you've played recently, or maybe you have some favorite games that you just can't put down. Do you have any kind of top games you're playing right now, or ones that you have that are favorites from the past?
For me, it's like kind of darker games. Resident Evil 2. It's a game of my heart.
Yep.
Of course, Silent Hills, or all the Silent Hills. That's a shame that the last one, The Downpour, was created by a Czech studio, and after that they just cut it off. And and what else? Of course, it's kind of nostalgic. It's a Mafia Czech game as well. But of course, with in company, when we've got team building, we played a lot of Overcooked. That's pretty cool.
That's a good fun one. Yeah, really quick paced.
Yeah, but I'm not big player or a gamer. I don't play every day. I don't play months, but then I have 5 days and I don't go out and I'm just playing some game and I'm totally into the game, swimming deep.
Yeah, lots of fun. Yeah, no, lots of great games there that you've listed. And with E3 in the works as well, are there any games maybe you're looking forward to? I know you're not saying a big gamer, or is there maybe just like the surprise of maybe what upcoming things might be coming in the future? Because it's always cool to see kind of what new things are coming out and new technologies. Or is there anything that's on your mind? You're like, oh, I'm really looking forward to this.
Probably I'll be just watching the streams from there, and I have my favorite, and it's a bit confusing now. I'm not sure if Death Stranding will be there.
Not too sure, no.
But probably that's the title which I'm interested in. It's just nobody knows what is it or what's gonna be, and it's Kojima's project. So
yeah, it's all very mysterious and kind of a little bit unknown. But I know there's been a few teasers kind of around on the internet here and
Yeah.
there as well. So, but again, no, thank you very much for your time in the studio again tonight. It's been an absolute pleasure having you
Yeah.
and having that insight into the research. I hope you've enjoyed your time as well. Is there any last things that you would like to say to the community before we disappear?
We really appreciate their help, and you know, always have in mind that we are not like the world simulator, but truck simulator. So we always have to do some compromise. We can't simulate everything, but you are doing an awesome job, and you help us a lot.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah, this is one example, for example.
Yeah, this is from our forums here. So if you want to get involved in those, then do go ahead. But no, again, thank you for your time.
Thank
this
you very much.
Evening, and
Pleasure to be here.
there's lots more coming up, folks. Do not worry, we've got lots more on the way. We'll be talking to another special guest from the development team of the Creative Process of Washington, our brand new DLC that is coming up on June 11th. So you have looked forward to that release. You'll have also more chances to win that special West Coast bundle during the stream if you continue watching with us. And if you just joined us, do not worry. You can watch this stream again on our Twitch VODs at twitch.tv/SCS Software. So do not go anywhere. We've got lots of exciting things happening in the works. We'll have more people, more gameplay, and it's going to be a lot of fun tonight. So do stick with us. We'll see you again in a few minutes' time. See you then.
Thanks you for watching.
Hello again and welcome back. It's great to have you back with us here in the SES studio. We've had so many great guests so far who's joined us for this very special Washington stream this evening, and we've talked about so many different subjects already and learning really the creative process of how this brand new map expansion was made, and we'll be talking a little bit more with that in just a moment. But first, I wanted to let you know that we have some more great things coming up. We've got some Q&A questions from the community with Pavel Shabor, so definitely stick around for that. As well as that, during the stream we'll have a few more giveaways with the West Coast bundle that includes American Truck Simulator, Oregon DLC and the Washington DLC. That will be appearing on your screen in a key format, so make sure you have your Steam up ready to activate that product. You might be one of those lucky people to have Washington a little bit earlier than the rest, and that will activate on the 11th of June. That's next week for the release date of Washington. It's all very exciting. If you haven't already, add it to your Steam wishlist. And now join with me in the studio. We have a familiar face. He joined us the other day on our live stream gameplay of Washington. Patrick, it's great to have you back in the studio.
Hey.
Thank you very much for joining us again this evening.
Thank you. Yeah.
And maybe for those who are tuning in for the first time, introduce yourself to the community.
Hi everybody, I'm Patrick. I worked for SES for 8 years. I was a map designer. Previously I started on Euro Trucks, now I'm on the American Truck Simulator. Last, I think, 3 years or something more. And recently, 1 year ago, I became a lead designer or DLC map leader, responsible for Washington DLC. So that's pretty much what I do.
Wow, so quite a lot of experience behind your back with 8 years. That's it's quite, the time's gone quite fast.
Yeah, that's
isn't
a
that?
third of my life.
Wow. So let's take that back then. Let's throw that back a little bit. How, when did you start your job at SES? How did you get into SES?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I started when I was 16, actually.
Quite young.
Yeah, I was part of a modding community, doing lots of mods to 18 Wheels of Steel because I was a huge fan of 18 Wheels of Steel, and I used to play it every day, like literally every day. And when there was a Facebook boom in, I don't know, like 10 years ago or sometimes like that, SCS created a page on Facebook, and I uploaded one of pictures from my mods that were changing old 18 Wheels of Steel into Slovakia, the country I came from. And there was Bratislava, the capital city, and they saw it on their Facebook, and Pavel Shabor reacted like, yeah, those are beautiful images, why don't you already work for us? And I was super excited. But I said, guys, I'm 16, and they were like, it's okay. You can collaborate with us from your home. So I started as an externalist, and 3 years ago I joined the internal team.
And you mentioned about you're creating some of those mods in the modding community, which a lot of community members out there still do to this day. There's a lot of people who contribute by doing that on the Steam workshops and stuff. But really, what are those kind of hobbies and kind of skills that you had before you worked at SCS? Those are some of the things that you were learning yourself from home. It was kind of self-taught, or did you kind of study it, or
No,
what were some of those things that you did?
It was like 10 years ago. I think I didn't even have internet at the time when I was trying to learn something.
Okay, yeah.
So it was pretty hard to learn anything. And when I finally get internet, I asked one guy doing mods if he can write my name as a skin to a truck. And he was like, I don't do it for you, do it yourself. And that was the best thing he could do, because I thought how to do it. And
that is, like you're saying, a pivotal moment for where you okay, let's get down to the nitty gritty. Let's get into learning how I can start, that first paint job. Yeah, I just made some changes in the textures. Then I get into definitions. Then I changed some of the city names. So the whole America, Los Angeles was Bratislava, and these kind of things. Then I learned how to delete some objects from the map, palms, Hollywood sign. So it was less American, more European. And then I learned how to make 3D models. Wow. I put it into games. So yeah, it was a long time process, but yeah, the biggest or the result was Bratislava appearing on their Facebook, and thanks to that picture I work here. Fantastic. That's a really, really cool story, and almost I guess a little bit of an inspiration for other kind of budding community modders out there that might be kind of just learning for the first time, etc. like that. I think the best thing on these games are that the editor is implemented already, so you can just write edit
USA or edit America or something, and it unlocks the editor, and you can see what's there. You can learn how to work with the tools, and it's pretty easy, I would say.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
And now looking at some of your work and your team's work as well, right here we're going past the Grand Coulee Dam, which is such a fantastic landmark within Washington. Its size, it's huge, and it's such an impressive asset to have in the game. And you know, when I first saw this with my own eyes, you know, the different ways you can see it at night, during the day, is just really, really stunning. And maybe we can get into that. Maybe we can really delve into Washington now and some of the work you're involved in. You know, what are some more things, just like the Grand Coulee Dam landmark here, that we can look forward to seeing in Washington? What can the community expect us to kind of experience for themselves?
Lots of miles of dense new network. Like Washington is one of the most dense populated states in the United States, and I think it's pretty visible from the DLC. We have some new features that has been introduced to American trucks, but they have been in Euro trucks, but now we introduce them to American trucks, like ferries that are in Washington. Some more of the forest roads, Grand Coulee, one of the biggest points that worth mentioning, Seattle, and such things. I think what the team has done on the Washington DLC is amazing.
And there's so much to explore within this Washington DLC. We're talking not only landmarks and forests and mountains, but bridges and tunnels, and also some new technologies that are involved as well within it. Maybe we can step through. We've got kind of a list here of some. We've got bridges, and when I did myself a little bit of research when I was writing the blog about the bridges, Washington has a lot of bridges, just like so many, because obviously the amount of water that kind of creeps into the state, you know, around Seattle, it's got ports and stuff. They have to be kind of all connected in one way, and that must have been quite a difficult decision to kind of choose, you know, your pick and choose of what favorite bridges are going to come in and out. And obviously we saw some of those on the other stream, like you mentioned, the swing bridge. You know, is that something that is always a bit of a hard choice to kind of think of mechanics and such like that with bridges?
As you said, Washington, thanks to its location, is pushed to have many bridges, and it was hard to pick the best or the most interesting ones. Actually, we don't have every single one, but I think we have the most interesting bridges, including the swing span bridge, some of the drawbridge around Aberdeen. It's actually every road leading to Aberdeen has some bridge on it. So, so you cannot really go to Aberdeen without crossing a bridge. And every bridge is drawbridge or swing span bridge. So I think we have 6 bridges just for Aberdeen.
Wow. So it's almost like, I guess, if you're a big fan of like the TV series Pokemon, you've got to collect them all / you've got to visit them all, all, or visit all the bridges, because there's so many different dynamic ones and such that you can visit. And you touched as well a little bit about Seattle, and Seattle is just such a fantastic skyline and just a beautiful thing to look at. You know, the way you approach it from the different highways, and you just see it kind of arriving on the horizon. It really, really is something. Maybe you can talk about a little bit about the process behind that city, because obviously that's a big city. That's, you know, skyscrapers and such like that, and you can actually really drive down into the downtown areas. Could you maybe explain maybe a little bit more about that?
It was a good opportunity to bring players more close to the downtown, because Los Angeles, even they have beautiful skylines, but the main freeways, the road network, the most important road network, goes pretty far from the skyline. So we were happy that Seattle has Interstate 5 crossing directly under the skyscrapers of the downtown. So it was challenge, but it was we were kind of lucky that Seattle looks how it looks in real life. So. And that gave us opportunity to recreate interesting things like the tunnels on the skylines, and also the tunnel going to if you go through Interstate 90 to Bellevue, there is a interesting tunnel that splits into 2 tunnels in the middle of itself. Crazy things I never saw before in Seattle. Even the double-deck tunnel, I never saw something like that before.
So it really creates like a unique challenge to kind of create those and bring those into the map for drivers to experience, because it's those kind of elements where you're on the road that players are really, really going to enjoy. You know, the little surprises, the little things that you weren't expecting. Obviously, it could be that a good amount of people that play Washington have never been there or even really seen it. I've never been to Washington for myself, and so seeing it represented in this fantastic and beautiful way is really, really something else.
We also never been to Washington, or some of us were there to grab a sounds from Peterbilt and Kenworth when they were visiting Packard in northern Washington. They took a few pictures and they bring it for us to see. So we had some more inspiration than just from Google Street View or such things, or satellite imagery, the most common tool used to grab information how the scenery looks. I think if a designer has an eye for the street view thing, he can grab some of the feeling from it. He doesn't really need to visit the place. I think we are kind of used to work without visiting the place. I think many game developers don't need to visit that place. They are recreating into some game. So,
I mean, like we talked about earlier, we were talking about the research. We had Kraken who has joined us, and he was talking about how much research they get from the community and stuff like that, and that all really makes up the elements, and I guess makes it a little bit easier for your team to kind of know what is going to be inputted into those kind of areas. And as we know, Washington is not all city, it's not all buildings, it's a very, very green state. It's very, very evergreen state, as they call it, the nickname, and there's a lot of nature around, and there's also some really impressive like, I guess, natural landmarks. For example, Mount St. Helens is a really, really fantastic one that's been included within the game, which we saw in the blog post. You know, recreating an area like that, I mean, because that's such a huge radius that surrounds it, the national park and the actual feature of the mountain itself. I mean, we touched a little bit on in the blog about how those new technologies helped with that, and is that something you've implemented a lot more around the map? Using like the photo technology?
Yes, of course, but when you talk about Mount St. Helens, for example, the funny thing is that it was not meant to be in the game before, from the beginning. The idea came when I saw a documentary movie about Mount St. Helens, about the explosion, how is it called, the eruption in 1980. And when they said it's located in Washington, it was, I think, 2 or 3 months after I became a leader of Washington DLC. So that brought me an idea to implement the mountain to the game. And when I came to Asset Guys to ask them for the model, they were like, "Oh my God, Patrick, how would you like to implement it to the gameplay? Because no trucks drive there." And I was like, it's a kind of iconic landmark of Washington, and I think many people living in Washington would appreciate if Mount St. Helens would be included in the DLC. So, and it's the same thing about the Grand Coulee. It was not planned to be there from the beginning.
Wow,
it's also the thing that I just saw the documentary movie. I think it was called Big, Bigger, Biggest or something like that. They were talking about dams around the world, and as the Grand Coulee Dam is one of the, or maybe the biggest dam in the United States. Also, when I heard that it's in Washington, I told myself we really have to do it into game. I made some prototype which looked terrible. It was just to measure if we can fit it into our scale, and everybody was laughing because it really looked terrible. But one of the asset guys came to me later and he told me, "You know, Patrick, I think I can make a prototype for you just to see how it looks, how we can recreate such a big thing, if it's even possible." And when he came with the prototype, I think it was the best thing I've ever seen in the prototype stage of progress. And then everybody was like, "We really need to do that. We really need to have it in Washington DLC."
So really, those documentaries really almost shaping the map, and I can't even imagine kind of the map expansion without them now, because they're such prominent features within the game, and they're just such beautiful things to look at. But those aren't the only things that are included, obviously, within the map expansion. There are not only the cities and obviously these natural landmarks and great man-made landmarks, but we also have a lot of industries as well. You know, Washington, home state of some of the biggest industries in the world. You know, we're talking lots of aerospace industries and computer industries, and one that's included, going back to the aerospace industry, is what we call the Darwin factory, kind of a nickname. I'm sure most people can get what we're referencing to, but even that itself, that asset is absolutely massive. I mean, there's no other way of describing it. It's the world's largest building, and to put that into Washington with the scale that we're using, obviously, on the map can be quite a challenge, but it almost feels like it wouldn't be Washington without it, right?
Of course. And that's a funny thing, because as you were talking about the scale, the whole thing of I mean Darwin, is placed over a part of Seattle, and just one cut plane separates the scenery one from each other. So we have actually overlapping sceneries just to fit them into our limited scale. So that's what I was talking about on Thursday, that we are kind of on the limit of what we can put into the map. But yeah, as you said, Washington would be nothing without this Darwing company.
All those different little industries, they just make up what the city is about, you know, the people that live there and they work with, and it really just kind of really makes it feel very much home for some people, I guess. When they're going to drive through this map, they'll be like, I know these places, I can see them for myself, I've seen them in real life, and this really feels like, you know, where I live. And that's something, I guess, that's very, very important for not only yourself but also the team, you know, to make it really feel like it's somewhere that's alive and that it's somewhere that people can look at and go, I know these places, this is really, really, really cool.
Yeah, it's always about the approach. Because if you have a 1 to 20 scale, then you cannot really shorter everything to that scale, because if the bridge has 2 miles, you cannot make it few meters because of the 1 to 20. Yeah, so you have to pick out of 20 places, you have to pick one which you're gonna recreate 1 to 1. And that results to what you said, that you really feel that it's living, and it really reminds you the real Washington, or the real location that we were trying to reproduce.
Absolutely. And something that kind of comes to my mind now is that there's so much packed into the state. There's a lot of things, and we spoke a little bit earlier with the other, you know, designers and researchers, that it's very, very hard to kind of fit everything in and choose and pick and optimize, and it's just a big struggle and a big, you know, kind of love-hate relationship with the whole process of it. And now we're at a point where it feels like you've got almost the perfect amount of things in here, and that you've included everything you've wanted to include. So now it comes down to the point of, which is going to be another question that I would struggle with, and I imagine a lot of the community will struggle with as well, is that, do you have a favorite area that your team has created within Washington?
I'm not sure if this is not gonna sound selfish. I really like Seattle and Grand Coulee, and it's not because I did it for the map. I did it because I like it. Not that I like it because I did it. So yeah, I really enjoy myself doing Seattle. All the tunnels, the biggest challenges we've never had before. And the Grand Coulee, we have many variations of Grand Coulee actually, because the asset guy I was talking about before came to me with an idea. Should we, how many water should we let go through the
the
dam? Yeah, and he made 3 versions of that, and I like every single one. So I came to Programmer's Base and I asked them if they could just make something that it will automatically switch between few variants, and they said yes. And thanks to that, we have variability also in these kinds of things. Yeah.
And I noticed that because when I've had the chance to drive through Washington for myself, and I passed the Grand Coulee Dam, I noticed when I passed through there multiple times that it was different, and that just made it feel very fresh, you know, very kind of like, wow, this is really, really something special that they've been able to create those kind of unique and dynamic, you know, feel to it, that it's going to be different every time you visit that place. So you can't only go once to these places in Washington. You have to visit time and time again, because something might change, something might be different depending on the time of day where you go. And I imagine now that you and your team has now become very, very familiar with Washington. Obviously, you've worked a lot on it. You know it almost like every single piece of it. So if you were to go to see one place in Washington for yourself with your own eyes, where would that be and why?
Oh, well, it's hard to decide. I would most probably land in Seattle, so that would be a chance to see Seattle, but then I would go to Grand Coulee to see how big it is, you know, because you really have to feel the
scale.
The scale. Yeah, the scale of the place.
Because you know, it's so hard to tell again, because we're talking about favorite features or some features you would add in game, and it was said earlier that they would like to kind of get out of the truck just so they can sense the scale from a person's perspective and not the truck's perspective, because the Grand Coulee Dam is just such a massive thing. It stands at over 550 feet tall, if I remember the facts correctly, and spans over a mile long, and that is huge. You know, that is massive, and it would be just such an incredible thing. And then, but we still have a little piece of it to look in within the game and to kind of see how it would look in real life. So yeah, it's a great answer. I think I would probably go for the same ones myself, really, to go see those same places. So how, I mean, we touched on it a little bit earlier, but what, are the biggest ways you can draw inspiration without actually visiting the state? Because obviously we have the research part of it and also, the way that you look at things, but how would you say that
It
works
really
best for
depends
you?
on what kind of information we are looking for, because some of the information we can get from Google Street View, from satellite imagery, from the facts that are written on the internet regularly. We even have some documentations about navigation signs, the guide signs, because I think United States has a very public library of how they do some things, which helped us with recreating the things, because we are simulators, so we need to have it correctly. Yeah. And when it comes to more the tracking things, it's not always written on the internet, so we really have to ask the community. It really helps us to have a tracking community, because we are game developers, we are not trackers,
Yeah.
And at that time, we really need the tracking community to help us getting some information about, for example, how Wait Station works. We don't know. I didn't know. Now I know, because we have many talented people that spend time with us writing on the forum or to the comments under blog posts. So they are amazing. It really helps. Thank you guys for every support.
Massively thank you to them, and of course, creating a map expansion of this kind of scale with this much detail into it and all the forests and everything, that doesn't come without its challenges. Obviously, like I said earlier, it's a bit of a love-hate relationship. There's going to be tough times and some easier times where you're just really enjoying yourself. So what would you say are some of the biggest challenges your team faced, maybe with optimization, or what landmarks you chose to represent, etc.?
I think the amount of challenges depends on how many things you want to input into the map. The more you want to put, the more troubles you have with optimizing. Basically, Seattle was the biggest troubles we have about optimizing. There are just so many objects. Something around 7,000 row calls for the GPU. So every frame it has to count 7,000 row calls of textures, shadows, objects. Everything that is there. And our limits are much lower. So we had to hide few things, set it to the shorter draw distance, hide a few things over the trees, place some cut planes there, and such things. But it was not a problem only with Seattle. Basically, every city has these kind of problems. So, just in case of Seattle, it was the bigger amount of problems.
Of course, and also another thing when it comes to it is that when it comes to obviously choosing those landmarks and such to represent, another big thing as well for players is the industries, where we have lots and lots of different industries within Washington, and it's always hard to kind of choose newer ones, etc., like that as well. So what are some of the biggest challenges that you faced when you came to choosing what industries to represent? Because obviously lots of players, of course, would love to see new ones as well. Obviously we have a fantastic new industry to represent in Washington, which is the Kenworth factory, which is such a cool collaboration to have. I'm not going to lie, it's very, very cool. We showed off some of the piggyback trailers in the previous stream. But, was it a tough choice kind of when it came down to there's such a range of things to choose from? How do we kind of select what is going to be best for the players?
It's kind of related to what real truck drivers do in Washington. So it was not. I cannot say it was not hard, but I think we will have bigger problems in next states like Texas, when the trucking business is much bigger. Here it was still kind of reasonable, or still pretty simple. So things like Kenworth factory, it was just, we have beautiful collaboration with Kenworth, and they send us tons of photographies and pictures from the gate, how the factory looks, the layout, what kind of process you need to go through when you go into the factory. So they were really supportive and helpful. And about the rest of the industries, Washington is kind of farming land, I would say.
Yep.
Yeah, they produce, I don't know how many percent of whole Americans.
It's quite a big amount,
apples, and such a things. So we retouched the farms. We have some new types of farms, or new models, pumpkins, or such things that we never had before in the game. Because we are always trying to bring something new with each DLC. We don't want to repeat ourselves and be more like we are selling more of the same. We don't want to have it like that.
Yeah, and it's great to have that range because it really just does make it feel different on every visit and every job
Yeah.
that you do. It makes it feel unique. You're doing something for someone different. And we'll talk a little bit more about maybe your team and such in just a minute. But first, we're going to be going to a giveaway. So we've got another chance to give away one of those fantastic West Coast bundles that we've been giving away. This includes American Truck Simulator, Oregon, and Washington DLC. So you'll be receiving that for activation on the 11th of June. And it also might include something else special. Who knows?
Who knows, yeah.
You know, there's some speculation going around about that. So this is your chance to win. The key will appear on the screen momentarily on the overlay. You just need to put that key into Steam and be one of the first to have the quick hands to do that. It's a bit of a challenge sometimes to kind of have those quick hands to copy that code in. So good luck to everyone who's entering. This is your chance to win not only some cool map expansions, but also the latest one that we'll be releasing on the 11th of June, Washington, which we're talking about, and it looks fantastic. I mean, I can't wait for everyone to experience this for themselves. And if you're eager to also get it for yourself on release day, make sure to add it to your Washington Steam list.
Good luck, everybody.
Good luck, everyone. Okay, so getting back into the gritty of it, we've got always a lot of questions that people are interested about, you know, when we're talking about the creative process of Washington, about maybe how big some of your teams are. So maybe you could give kind of an insight how large the team is now, because it's always constantly growing here at SES.
It varies by the time, but basically I think the team has around 8 people, including me, because I was not only like leading the project and doing the management, I was also doing the map itself, as I mentioned, Seattle and Grand Coulee and such things. So in 8 people, I think they did amazing amount of work because if I compare it to Oregon, I think we were like 14 before, but now we had to split into more teams because we are trying to do more DLCs in parallel, and that's maybe a thing Pavel would like to talk about a little bit more.
We'll see.
So yeah, and what to say? Most of the team members are newbies, so it was how to say it. Sometimes hard to introduce them to our workflow, to the pipeline, to the old processes. But I think that they adapted really, really well. And as you can see, this is the city done by a newbie. And if that looks like how it looks, I think it's amazing. If a newbie can do something like that, yeah, including all details, everything is correct. It has correct navigation signs, traffic signs, and it's just
Beautiful. It just flows so nicely, so nicely. That looks fantastic. And it's really cool to see, I guess, a bit almost humbling to see kind of the process that they go through when they join the team, and they kind of almost progress that they make so quickly, you know, to get into the flow of things and such like that.
But we also have some seniors joining our team from Promotes community.
Okay.
From modding community, we have one guy from Promotes joining us. He came from Denmark. He's 19 and he left his parents. He moved to Prague and now he works for us. And it's incredible because he did 5 out of 16. 16 cities in Washington, and that is something that nobody had never ever done before. I mean, 5 cities for 1 DLC.
That's
I mean,
huge.
Nikolai is a true hero of Washington DLC. 5 cities on the credits.
Massive props to all the team
Yeah.
then. I mean, that is a lot of work, and really to get into the flow of that it must have been easy, you know, to really kind of get into that learning curve like you were saying, and then to bring it to this. Amazing stuff, a really massive effort from all the team there, and a massive thank you to them. And obviously a big thing within teams is communication. So, you know, how do you communicate your ideas with the rest of the team and ensure that everyone is kind of like on the same page?
We have regular, or I'm trying to have it regularly, meetings with all team members and also with asset team members, because it's not only about map designers. It's really related to what kind of assets we can use, because they do stuff we just place into the map, and without them we would be nothing. For example, when you order a bridge, you need to draw how long it should be, what's the dimensions and everything, and this is when the collaboration really comes to be useful. And I think we bring collaboration with asset team to a new level, and it's so visible on Washington because we did many prototypes, like as I said, with the bridges. Previously, we were kind of struggling if it should be a prefab or model. It's kind of technical thing, but I think as we grow, we learn, so collaboration grows.
Absolutely. And maybe having some of your thoughts right now collectively as we're nearing the release of Washington. You know, what are some of your emotions right now? As we're so in some of the final days before, obviously, it releases, it's kind of a big time for you and your team. You know, what are some of your emotions right now?
Right now, my emotions, wow. As we have 4 or 5 days to release it. I'm pretty stressed, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I'm full of expectations, to be honest. I really expect that the community will like what we have done. It was more than actually one year of work for our team. So we've put a lot of love and time and effort to it. So I'm really hoping that the community will appreciate our new approach about skylines, the farms we have done, ferries, dynamic speed limits, and all these new features we have introduced or we will introduce into American Truck Simulator.
And it's all very, very exciting, and I can imagine it's almost nerve-wracking. You know, you put in almost like everything that you've been working for the past year kind of solidly, and through the stressful times and the good times and the bad times and the hard times, and now you just got to kind of let it go and be like, it's yours to check out and see and explore for yourself. And we hope that there's nothing too game-breaking or found into it, which can be a little bit scary at times, I can imagine. But as you said, it's very much a team effort of going through all the different teams, testers and stuff like that to really bring this together and to shine. And with Washington, have you managed to achieve maybe that anything in this map that has never been done before? Is there anything that's just brand new that is just like never been seen in any other previous DLC in American Truck Simulator?
I think we have used much more farm models than we were using before, because our draw distance is, I think, 1.6 kilometers, and with the farm models we can kind of fake the draw distance to be 4 kilometers, and it was on huge sceneries like Grand Coulee, the challenging road, the mountain cliff road leading to the timber harvest, located on the top of the mountain, which is incredible. And also Seattle has some of these farm models. Mountain Helens is one of the farm models. New technology that helped asset guys to recreate these mountain models we use as a backgrounds. They look fantastic compared to what we had before.
And really, like I said earlier, because you know Washington the most and the best, do you have any routes that maybe you'd recommend for those who are waiting for the DLC to release? Every single one, but do you have anything in specific? Like it's really something like, this is my favorite route to kind of drive or to go along?
I think Interstate 5, as it is kind of iconic road. With Washington, it's finished finally, and also 101 on the coast, the coastal road, because they go through the most interesting cities. Interstate 5 with the downtown of Seattle, through Tacoma, Olympia, and such things. And in Washington, it's amazing that we really have the evergreen state feeling, because whenever you drive through the city center, you don't really know that you are in the city, because there is a lot of green around, and it's exactly how it looks in real life, or as we saw on Street View.
And I think this would be a perfect opportunity to maybe talk to the community just a little bit about, for those who are very interested in the modding scene, because obviously you coming from a modding background yourself and then into SCS and working with it, you know, how is one way maybe who's interested to get into the map and world design for games? You know, what would you say is some advice almost you can give to someone who's kind of leading to aspire to be kind of in the same kind of positions?
I think the period we live in is pretty good, because we have internet, we have learning tools, and the editor itself is really simple, and it's really simple to get into that. It's really simple to unlock it, because it's not really locked. It's just you have to rewrite one number in the configuration file, and then you can write whatever you want into console and unlock all the tools we are working with. So everybody who is thinking about maybe being a map designer, maybe for a modding community or maybe later for us, who knows. I think the best thing to do is unlock the editor and teach what you can. my recommendation.
Fantastic. So just utilize what's out there,
Yeah.
seek inspiration, and this might be it. This might be the turning point for someone else that like, yeah, let's get into it.
Yeah.
So hopefully we see some of those in the future. And we've been asking our guests who have been here in the studio today if you could bring any sort of feature, be it wild or within limits, to American Truck Simulator. What would it be? You know, with the click of fingers, it would be there. What would it be?
I really wish there were features that could be done just by one click. If that were true, it would be a pleasure for me to do the one click.
Yeah, of
actually.
course.
But it's really hard to pick. I would appreciate maybe a little bit faster engine, but I cannot really blame our programmers because they do fantastic job. We finally have DirectX 11, which is a great thing. It add us a lot of opportunities and possibilities to improve our design skills, the environment we have in the game. But I love the game itself. You know, I'm the fan of the game, so I love it as it is.
Of course, of course.
It's just I'm always trying to improve it on the level we can improve it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you're always, you know, kind of looking at it and seeing it grow and how it can be better,
Yeah.
which is a fantastic kind of way to look at the world of American Truck Simulator, and is, I guess, would be really, really nice for the community to see the same thing as well, to see that same inspiration from
There
you.
were some features that were not very complicated to write, like dynamic speed limits or dynamic sign. The LED panel we just see there.
There it
Drive
is.
safely. Some text changing after some intervals. I think 2 seconds or something like that. Don't drink and drive. It was pretty easy to write it, and it adds so much realism to the American freeway system, because they have panels like that every, I don't know how many miles, but in some intervals it appears there. So these are kind of easy features, and we keep improving the game itself. So I cannot pick a new feature that would be
Wouldn't
suitable,
go
because
into
I don't know which one it is easy or which one it isn't. I always have to ask programmers.
Of course, and I think this our driver now, our stick behind the wheel, is heading towards Seattle. And I imagine very, very soon we'll get to see the horizon of it.
Yeah.
Do you have really a favourite part of like the very kind of hub of Seattle yourself? I know you said you loved working on it and that you kind of just you fall in love with Seattle. Do you have a favourite part of it?
The double deck tunnel under downtown, it was one of the most complicated part. It took a long time just to recognize what construction is behind, because the street view is pretty dark there, so you have to really take some time to recognize if that is a pillar or something, you know, because it was just one black image, and then you really have no chance to recognize what's there. We used some drive-through videos that are on the internet. Thanks for the trackers that they have the camera,
The dash cams,
the
and
dash cam,
GoPros
yeah.
and whatnot.
So
yeah.
thanks them. Actually, without dash cams, we wouldn't be able to catch some of the details. They go through the wait stations, so now we know how it works much better than before. Even these transponders we've introduced into Washington DLC. In this moment, it should say now if you have to pass by, or if you have to stop at the wait station. We previously just placed the trigger there, but now we know that the transponder thing is
How it's like
the
picked up,
device,
detection, yeah.
the device that communicates with the device inside the truck. So, and we didn't know it was important. It was just something that is on street view, and I'm not a trucker. I didn't know what is it for. So thanks to our community that they explained us that we should really have something like that. And it was, as you said, that was kind of one-click feature, because the only cost it had was just to ask for that model, and they created in 1 or 2 days.
Fantastic. And again, little details like that just make all the massive difference in this DLC. It really is a beautiful DLC, and we've had the privilege of looking at so much already gameplay-wise, and looking into the insight of how it's been created and the creative process. And you can really see how much love and has been put in, not only from our team here at SCS and how hard they've worked, but also the community as well. Just like you're saying, how they've inputted to really create and shape this state. And really we want to ask you now, towards the end of our time here in the studio with you, is how are you celebrating the release of Washington? What's going to be like your hurrah when we hit the button on the 11th of June when it releases? What's your kind of moment of celebration?
Usually when we release a DLC, it's that somebody sits behind a notebook or laptop and somebody pushes the button. And I really wanted everybody to join this fantastic moment. So we were ordering a button, like a real red button,
Awesome.
looking like a dome button.
Yeah.
So I think everybody will put hands together and we will push it on the same time, and that will be like the most satisfying moment, because that's how I would maybe compare it to the women, to the pregnant women, because it's our baby, you know. we have put love into that, and that's the moment when the baby finally came to the birth, and you know that's the moment I'm gonna really celebrate.
It's gonna be glorious, and I'm sure you're really looking forward to seeing everyone's reactions. That's
Yeah.
probably one of my favorite parts, is when you're seeing the reactions of everyone on social media. They're posting photos, they're posting videos, they're saying, "Oh, this is great," and leaving feedback, and it's almost like a bliss moment.
I
like
really
you're
look
saying.
forward for it, because as I read under the blog post in the comments, everybody's so excited about Washington DLC, and all comments are actually positive. So I'm really looking forward for the positive, maybe reaction on Steam or whatever.
Fantastic. So that's when it comes out. Make sure you let us know. Post your photos on social media. Go crazy with it. Hashtag ATS Washington, whatever. We love to see reactions. We love to see what you think of this DLC, or you can even let us know right now through our Twitter and such like that as well. So coming to an end time here in the studio, and I think what's a perfect place to end it, but with the skyline of Seattle approaching on the highway, which is, as you said, almost like your baby, and it's just a beautiful scene to behold here as we drive through this area, and really just kind of imposing as you come onto it. But no, massive thank you for coming into the studio tonight. It's been an absolute pleasure having you here, giving us an insight on how your team works and what you've created here, along with all the other teams. It really has been really interesting. But we still have plenty more on the way. We have our CEO, Pavel Shabor, who will be joining us for our Q&A and answering some of the hottest topics right now from the community. So we have that to look forward to. Before we disappear, though, is there anything else you would like to say to the community before we part ways?
I do really hope that everybody will enjoy playing American Truck Simulator with Washington DLC. I cannot wait for reactions, and I really hope that they will be positive.
Wonderful. Well, thank you very much again for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure.
It was a pleasure for me too.
Well, do not go anywhere, folks. As I said, more great things on the way, and maybe even one more chance to win the West Coast bundle. There's been so many fantastic topics that we've had to delve in with Washington, and we really look forward to answering more of your questions in the next segment. So do not go anywhere, but we'll be taking a quick intermission. So grab a drink, take a little bit of a break, but we'll be back in just a few moments with more. Stay with us, and we'll see you again in a few minutes. Bye.
See ya.
And welcome back everyone to tonight's very special SES stream here in the SES studio live from Prague in the Czech Republic. It's been fantastic having you with us for all of our previous guests and all the different things we've been going through about the creative process of Washington. If you're just joining us, do not worry, you'll be able to re-watch our stream on a rerun or through our Twitch at twitch.tv/SES software. You'll be able to use the video tabs at the top to re-watch the rest of the stream at any time that you like after the stream is finished. And we've been talking about this amazing new map expansion that's been coming out of Washington. We've been looking at the creative process. We've been looking at how the research is done and all the different designs. And now we're in our final segment, and I'm joined by a very, very special guest here. But before we get into that, we want to talk a little bit about the giveaways that will be happening during the session. We'll be giving away a very, very special bundle, which is the West Coast bundle. It includes American Truck Simulator, includes Oregon, and also the latest DLC, Washington. And you'll have the chance to win that randomly throughout of this session. It'll be appearing a couple of times on the screen with the key, so make sure you're ready with your Steam to activate that code. And if you're one of the lucky winners, then congratulations. But first, let's introduce my guests. We're joined by Pavel Shabor here in the studio. It's fantastic to have you with us. Thank you for giving up some of your time this evening to be with us.
Well, thanks for having me here. Absolutely a pleasure from my side, so I'm looking forward to it.
Fantastic. And how are you doing this evening?
Great, thanks.
Yeah, that's great. That's great to hear.
Great time to be just, ahead of the launch of a major project here. That's always a good time. A stressful time for the team, for us, a busy time, but we're almost there, so it feels great.
Of course, we've delved into some of the emotions and such that we've talked about with the team of how they're feeling, and some of them are nervous and some of them are excited to kind of let Washington out into the world. But I think, it's going to be such an amazing release when it does happen.
Yeah. For many of the members of the team or of the company, this is actually the first project that's been completed during their time here. We have a lot of new faces around the company, some new map designers, new artists. So for them, this is all new experience. It's going to be all new. For many people here, this is kind of old news, but it never gets old, really. It's always feeling the anxiety. Will it work? Will it not get broken somehow in the process? Are we forgetting a major bug in there, or have we managed to fix it and test it thoroughly enough? So you were pretty much busy until the very last moment. Like as of now, people are still, fixing some bugs, even though it's late in the evening. It's always, the team is super busy until the last moment, just to make sure we deliver in absolutely the best quality we can.
And of course, besides all that, there's also the very exciting feeling of just having everyone to take a look at it. We were mentioning earlier how exciting it is to see everyone's first initial reactions when they're throwing screenshots out on our social media and just really getting hyped for the whole thing. And are you excited for that to happen all again?
Yeah, we are trying to be better and better in this, more professional about it. We, as opposed to a couple of years ago when we were all about retail boxes and all about, doing the traditional old school media. Now we try to be more up to date, communicating with the fans more often through more channels, being creative about it. So there's also a lot of effort from you guys here, from the marketing team, to find ways to sell the thing, to make sure that people are aware of it, that they are looking forward to it. And I think each year we are doing a better job. So thanks.
And how would you say this really differs from any other DLC that we've released in the past? Obviously, American Truck Simulator is still quite new in terms of states that we've released. How would you say are the biggest differences with Washington now?
Well, first of all, we started with Oregon already into a new territory, sort of. We have moved beyond the desert into the green, lush regions. So, the balance of the team had to change somewhat. There's more effort on vegetation. Also, the new thing is that now we are really running two teams in parallel. So this is an all new, in American Truck Simulator, not just that there is a parallel production of Euro Truck Simulator 2 as well. But this is all new, like learning curve is steep, and all new experience for the teams to coordinate, to handle the regions where there are borderline sectors between different DLC areas, and the sectors are kind of, the people compete for who is allowed or not allowed to touch this particular map, a part of the world. So this is all new technically. This is new challenge for the tool chain, for the process. And also the new thing is that as we are growing, there is more new faces in the team. So actually it's not just execution, it's not just production. It's all about learning to deal with the size of the team, of the size of the company. So it never is old. It's always kind of a new challenge, new level of how hard we have to try.
And you mentioned a little bit just a minute ago about how saying they have to kind of shift their mindset. Obviously, with New Mexico, it's very much desert. It's very much, how do we make something that's so red and just rocks everywhere and make it seem like it's very unique in its own way, to now coming to the evergreen state of Washington, where it's just luscious green and mountains, and it's almost like there's too much to fit into kind of to one scale. And so to see that differences and how the team has adjusted to that is really, really fantastic to see. And it was really interesting also having a member of the research team on here, because that's quite a new team in itself, and how they now work with the map designers and the other teams to kind of work together in creating that process and having that, that real line of the research, and then you have the team and then the assets who build for the map designers and put it all in. And it's just a fantastic team effort to see from everyone, with all those kind of new people who are doing new little roles within the map design team, and also for American Truck Simulator. And going on to the topic of Washington, our big topic of today, have you tried going through Washington for yourself? Have you had a little bit of a drive for yourself?
Of course. Well, I'm taking a peek from time to time myself, of course. Then we had this whole company testing day when everybody is supposed to chip in with their ideas and feedback and maybe bug reports. So I'm taking a look from time to time. Of course, I have to be aware. I'm also, maybe people do not know, but I'm a former programmer. I used to be one of the early programmers in the team. And I still kind of think this kind of like an engineer sort of thinking. So I am doing my own kind of private performance testing to understand where we are. And Washington State is once again raising the bar in many ways, especially when you think a city like Seattle, which is pretty much on water. There's water everywhere, so it means the engine is more strained, rendering the reflections of the water into the water surface from the rest of the world. So there is as the map engineers, as the map designers put more detail into the world, the engine is being pushed harder and harder. So the programming team has to try harder and harder to optimize things inside the engine, find new creative solutions. So I feel like I'm a part of both of these efforts, both the designer team as well as the programming team. I try to have my input everywhere. So I absolutely have to see the progress as it happens. And
it's really, really great that you're involved in that whole process, because obviously, like you're saying, you'll get to see it for yourself and see where they're working at that time and everything. And you're saying about raising the bar, and it really, really is true, because we're seeing a lot of new features and new technologies. And I want to ask, actually, as you've taken your time to drive through Washington and seen different parts, is there anything that's really kind of caught you off guard and gone, I wasn't expecting to see this, or how have they managed to do this sort of thing?
Sometimes, and it's not just this DLC, but it's been happening over the years repeatedly. Sometimes, the programming team thinks about the engine and what sort of thing it's capable of, and then they are surprised by the artists or the designers that this wasn't supposed to be possible. You pushed too hard and you found a way to create a little something. Here, I guess you've heard it repeatedly already, that our passing through the city center of Seattle is somewhat unique, because it really gives more of an impression of being right there in the middle of all those skyscrapers. And as I was personally, actually a couple of times, visiting Seattle, either to visit Valve or to visit Kenworth in the area, I myself have been inside the Washington Convention Center. So now driving right under, and I've been there outside of the building, so I remember, all the concrete, all the feeling there, and the guys nailed it. I feel that this is it. So for me, this brings back some memories. And even though it's like just a bunch of concrete buildings, for me, this is kind of a proof that, we managed to get places right. It's a small sample of the whole state or the whole countries, but still those little samples kind of add up into an experience that's like, I've been there, I know this place, I recognize this place, this is cool, I'm learning something actually, so great.
And very much so, it's very much a team effort. And we're talking about how earlier we have even people from the community who input their research on the forums themselves. And we have people like that all over the world who've helped contribute to different map expansions in different areas of American Truck Simulator, for example. And I've heard that even yourself, you took a few photos while you're actually out in Washington, and maybe that even some of those were used for reference in some cases, maybe for some of the bridges, etc., like that, where there maybe wasn't a Street View or a Google Map where you're on like
I think
lakeside.
a lot of it is in Street View, but I was actually in Seattle very early this year. So all through the trip, in an Uber car, I was sitting next to the driver. I insisted, and I had my phone filming the passage through all the network of roads towards the city center. So I try. It's not like official research trip, but anytime we travel to the States, we try to photograph whatever concrete patches or something to have more alternate research material or reference material, because there's never enough. There's always hunger for more examples, for more real places to depict ultimately in the world.
Of course, and it all adds up. It really makes a massive difference, and it's kind of evident to see that the contributions from the community, from the research team, it all comes together into this beautiful map expansion that we're seeing today, which I just can't get enough of, really. Like, you drive it and you just want to drive it more. You want to check it out. You want to just keep going back, and with little things that change, like we mentioned earlier about the Grand Coulee Dam, of how the water flows out of it, and that changes, and if you go back at night, there's even a bigger surprise that I wasn't even aware of. It's really, really fantastic to go around and see, and I imagine a lot of the community are very, very excited for its release on the 6th of June, which is 11th of June. It's not 6 and 11, 11th of June, and it's really, really gonna be fantastic to see everyone's reactions, like we said earlier. And speaking of the community, we've been receiving a lot of hot topics and questions from communities. Would you mind if we delve into some of those questions?
Let's do it. Of course, there will be old favorites,
of course,
evergreen questions, but let's do it again.
Okay, yeah, we've got questions coming in from all sorts, and it won't be obviously just limited to American Truck Simulator. There might be a few questions from maybe Euro Truck sides and etc. like that, but we'll try and mix it in as best as possible. And one of the first questions that comes in, obviously someone who wants to admire the view a little bit better and have a bit more space to see, they're saying, when can we get windows that open?
This is the old question again. Okay, well, on the surface, this looks like the simplest thing ever. Well, this is just rendering a surface that's a little bit visible or not. In practice, as we are perfectionists, we have been waiting and are still waiting for a moment when our sound system allows for this to happen, to have it happen smoothly. It's right now, actually, the system of playing sounds inside the cabin and outside the cabin is a little bit complex. We're actually playing two different sets of sound. We have already pre-processed sounds, pre-recorded and pre-processed and sitting on the disk somewhere for the engine and the outside world that we play when we are inside the cabin. And then there's a very different set that is waiting until you switch to an external camera to be activated, and the internal sound system is deactivated. So this means a lot of memory is taken by having these two sets always ready in memory. And also, we cannot do a smooth transition right now. Well, if people switch to camera back and forth, this is not the same sound playing. We are just trying to kind of guess where we were while playing the internal sound to switch to the external one, and vice versa. But actually, if you open the window, you expect somewhat smooth transition. As it opens up slightly and then more, you expect one to go smoothly into the other. Right now, with our sound system, we wouldn't be able to do it, because for a time, we would have to play two sets of sounds in parallel, more performance costs to pay, and actually more in kind of, it won't mix well. It would be weird, because we wouldn't be millisecond precise. We would be somewhat off always. So what's happening now, and the future is optimistic, we are going to switch to a different sound system. Already we have licensed a different sound system. We have a coder and some people to handle it, of course, a sound engineer. So we'll be switching to a more robust sound library, sound system that will, I wouldn't claim that it's like this, but that will allow us to just have one set of sound that's like the clean one, and then have filters that we would apply over the sounds to emulate whether you are inside the cabin, or whether you are inside a tunnel, or whether there is a wall on the right or on the left when you open the window 100% or just half. So all this should be available to us through CPU processing of the sound effects that will be recorded like clean. So once this happens, then not only we'll have windows to open and have the sound just right, we'll have the ability to feel better about driving in different environments. That's going to be super important. About, it's very different if you drive in the open or if you drive in a city, if you drive really in a tunnel. So all that is hopefully on the horizon to happen. I don't know which update it's going to be in, but as I said, we've already licensed the technology. There are people playing with it now inside the company to get it right. So this is going to be the ultimate solution to the windows to open.
Fantastic, and it's really those kind of little details within the cab that make a big difference. Sound is something that you're just going to hear all the time in the game, and so having an upgrade to that with the new technology, like you were saying, will make a huge difference. And someone who wants to go one step more with that is asking, when can we walk around the truck? When can we get out of the truck?
We get these requests a lot. The trouble with our world, as opposed to something like Grand Theft Auto, is that the world wasn't built as a whole for people to just walk around. We may be looking into, for limited kind of experience, to open up some areas. Like maybe you can walk around on a gas station or a truck stop. Maybe you can walk around inside some company place. But if we let you freely into the world, unfortunately, people would very quickly see that the world is not what they think it is, that there are some tricks and dirty optimizations just beyond this, grass. There may be nothing in the world, literally, because it's been optimized for the camera angles. So this is going, if ever, moving around the world is far, far future. Ultimately, it's waiting for some new technologies that we need to invent first before we allow the people into the environment. We could do it now. Many people would probably be happy. But then many people would say, you're stupid because you failed to address this or this, because you can kind of reach the edge of the world or something. And then, this frustration we'll be risking too much. We don't want to cause this kind of frustration to ourselves and to our people. So we are trying to limit the experience to what the core of it is. The core is you are a trucker and you are a company owner, you do this and that. And we are not, there are also requests like, can you include the need to eat or, more social life for the player? Who knows, maybe we'll get there once, but for now, we still have so much to cover in the core experience that we need to focus on this rather than going different tangents.
And the community already getting quite eager to do more driving. Obviously, we have the release of Washington coming up next week, but we have the community already kind of speculating and kind of looking to what avenues of what next map expansion would be coming out for American Truck Simulator. Obviously, we wouldn't want to announce anything too early, but is there any sort of hints or anything you could give the community? Or
so nobody who's been sitting here before me has hinted anything yet.
Ooh, I mean, there was a couple of hints, but
we've been hinting over time. I'm aware that in a matter of couple of weeks, not more, we should start teasing, and then we should start actually carpet bombing with actual confirmation and trailers and screenshots. So the news is almost here, almost public, but we, since we want to be able to tease people, we like to play with the emotions. I'm not going to openly say, okay, this is it. Many people speculate, many people were correct in their speculation. Some people were mistaken too. But there is a very solid plan to have another map expansion out still this year. So we are picking the pace, and hopefully this is not, this trend is going to continue.
Well, there you go. So patience it is. Look out on our blog, on our social medias, blog.scsoft.com, our Facebooks, Twitter, Instagram. You might see some little hints and teasers there. Maybe you should look back on a few previous broadcasts that we have, but obviously something to look forward to in the future. And more from the community who still want to do even more trucking, but they want to do some in new trucks. I mean, they noticed that you mentioned at the beginning of the year that SES will be releasing around 4 new trucks this year. And we've already had the MAN TGX Euro 6, but what else can we expect for ATS, or maybe even touching on Euro Truck Simulator with maybe the Renault T range, etc.?
Well, we try to be not to commit too strictly to anything because it's not just us. It's not depending just on us. Some of these things depend on cooperation and approval of our industrial partners. Range T is a question that's coming up for years. As we explained, the bulk of the work, actually all of the work has been done through the years, and we always revisit the vehicle and try to get it up as ready for release as possible. We are very close to release, I would say. We just we're waiting for last formalities, but you never know how long this is going to take. Is it going to be 2 weeks? Is it going to be 2 months? Is it going to take until the end of the year? So, the hope is high here, but you never know. It's like it's beyond our control in many ways. As for American Truck Simulator, naturally we are owing people many vehicles there. We have a couple of trucks in production. It still looks like 2 of them may be ready by the end of the year. Let's be hopeful. It's just again, it's just not on us. It's just so many factors that need to meet together. We have to have still a sound engine recording session, or we are missing a photograph of the interior for a particular material, which may delay the texture process there. But we are doing our best to really have 2 more trucks in American Truck Simulator. And that's not all that's in production. We have multiple vehicles in various stages of production. So the situation with the licenses have improved over the last year. And now we are just trying hard to catch up and to build as much as we can. It's all about having the bandwidth here. We are always looking for more experienced vehicle designers, vehicle artists. So we'll try what we can, and the future for American Truck Simulator with the situation with vehicles is definitely optimistic.
And the community has picked up that the Lone Star would be one of those trucks, but they're asking, can we expect any other vans to make an appearance in ATS this year?
Well, International Lone Star has been already hinted and kind of showcased in some limited ways. So this is probably, I would say, the most advanced of the projects, of the vehicle projects right now in production. Again, we may be 99% there and then get delayed by something until it's done. It's not done. But there is a different truck from a different brand that's very close behind in the completion stages, and there are 2 more brands that are actually in some ways in production already, or we have already received the reference material, the CAD files. So right now we have covered all the major brands in the US.
Okay.
Nobody is left behind. Everything has been all the signatures are there on the paper. So that's great. Now it's all about getting the references, getting the support that was promised to us by the vehicle manufacturers. And having the team here, the guys are super busy. Building a truck is, as we recounted, it's over a many year of work. There's a guy who building the interior, another one building the exterior, another person maybe building the tuning parts, and somebody else has to do all the different paint jobs, and they have to meet somewhere and coordinate this thing. Then somebody else has to make the dashboard alive, do the onboard computer screens and stuff like that, make sure all the gauges and all the levers are working. So that's another step in the process. Then it has to be tested and retested and see if it can fit all the trailers and if the engines and the RPM curves and everything is right, so that it can climb this hill or that hill. So there's a ton of testing on top of this and ton of tweaking on top of this. So this is not a quick process. It's not like we get the CAD files and we're done in a couple of months. But we are getting very nice progress already. So I'm still hopeful that we'll be able to do 2 more vehicles for American Truck this year, and it's not by far everything. There will be more in the pipeline and more coming down.
That's great to hear. I'm sure that's what the community would like to hear, and to be able to experience to drive those for themselves in American Truck, to have those new vans in there. And speaking of kind of little accessories that you get in the trucks, obviously we had the recent release of 1.35 for Euro Truck Simulator 2 come out. and that featured a very, very cool new feature, which was the voice navigation. We had some fantastic people come in to do some recordings, some well-known, almost celebrities, would you say, and the community loves it. They've been giving some great feedback on it, and they are asking, are we going to be getting more GPS voices in the future? They'd love to see more languages, and even maybe even more celebrity voices. Obviously, I know we've seen a few mods that have come out of this already, some a few little celebrity voices on the Steam Workshop and whatnot, but could we expect more of those in the future?
Well, first of all, this is still like first stage of something that's going to grow in hopefully quality as well as scope. We started with only a couple of the most major languages when it comes to our player base. We'll definitely be adding more languages. As things settle, we may see that we have missed a particular like recording of a particular situation. So we didn't want to go, full guns blazing and have 20 languages at the outset and they come back and refix or fix those 20 languages. We wanted to have a decent set for the start, but people shouldn't be, thinking that this is all there ever is. We'll be adding more languages. We may possibly not do everything that's currently covered in the text translation of the game, which is community provided. We may stop at, 2025 ourselves and then hope for the community to save us by providing mods for the smaller languages. People are, surprised that we as a Czech studio, Czech company, we didn't even provide Czech language yet. This is certainly in the cards, this is certainly planned. But really we started this with a limited set to get the first initial feedback from the community and see what we can do for the next update. Then we'll see how many languages we can arrange, but there's definitely going to be more. And we hope to, expand the feature or have better precision of the situations, stuff like that.
And it's really, really a great feature. I've had a chance to try it for myself. I'm not sure if you have a favorite voice on the GPS. Obviously, I thought it goes for a lot of people, they really like the Doug raspy voice. It's a kind of a cool kind of little Easter egg in there.
Naturally, when we were planning the feature, the guys here thought, what can we do to kind of raise the profile of the game or awareness of the game, or how to kind of find new people a reason to even learn about the existence of the game. And the idea that we would invite celebrity voiceover voices was great. I mean, it served its purpose. We have been covered by major gaming publications, with this angle. But I wouldn't say any of the voices is my favorite. It was cool to meet Doug. It was cool to meet. I forgot. Sky.
Yep.
We are going to have more people here probably. I've been even requested to make myself with my weird voice to make a Czech voiceover. Maybe they'll persuade me in the end. But I think we should have professional voices do it rather than just us amateurs. But we're really going to add more, and we are going to see if we can make it more. I would say I heard some complaints that this is more kind of playful than people would expect. That they would also expect kind of strictly serious kind of formal voices. That it's worth looking into, so that we really, for people who really role play our game, who want to have this like a serious experience, this is something to look into definitely as well. So the range of the voices should also be expanded over time.
That's great to hear. And one thing that the community has probably hit on the topic so many times before in previous streams is that trucking is better with friends. I know we have a few community mods out there already, but people are asking, when will multiplayer happen, if it's in the works?
This question again.
Yeah.
Well, we have been hinting and speculating and somewhat denying, or then again hinting that this is in the long-term plans for sure. It's not like we are stuck mentally in the world that this game has to always be just a lone person single-player experience. We have been discussing and rediscussing it recently. We are aiming for what we call persistence in World of Trucks. We're headed towards implementing things that should make an experience that will be, we hope, close to what people imagine when they say virtual trucking companies, with your experience and money and everything accumulated over the long term, people being able to form teams, companies, people being able to cooperate on challenges together. So that's one aspect that may or may not involve seeing each other in the world. And then there's a multiplayer proper, or I would say some sort of like convoy functionality, where you can form together a group of trucks and ride into the sunset. And we need to have that too, even though I always claimed and I always insisted that the persistence of your experience is more important, so that when you come the next day, whatever you've done the previous day is recorded and you kind of continue in your progress is more important for the what we would call multiplayer than just the convoy experience. Some people may claim otherwise, and they are right, because Truckers MP prove that for many people this is really good enough.
They enjoy, yeah.
So we are always trying to reassess, should we do this first and then come back later to the convoy functionality, or should we somehow develop those in parallel? There are multiple people working on World of Trucks, for the past 5 years. We're actually hiring into that area some more. There have been more programmers coming aboard to broaden, to expand the bandwidth. So never say never. We are, we are aware of this need, of this hunger for multiplayer. We just are, again, we are perfectionists. We want to do it right. We don't want to do it half-assed solution and then have to come back and fix and fix and fix. We want to do it right, robust, in a way that 100,000 people may share the persistent database and be a part of something big, like a huge economy. Or then again, maybe a small group of people may want to have their private experience without having anybody messing with their driving. So we need to address both both parts of the range. And then there is this huge database for the persistence. So all that needs to fit together. I believe we will get there. I'm not just able to promise any dates or any deadlines. We are trying as hard as we can to implement multiplayer and VTCs. It's just really, it's a long road to get there.
Of course, yeah, it's a bit of a complicated process, and of course there's a lot of different parts of the community that like different things. Like you were just saying, some people rather not interfere with that sort of thing, and some people really enjoy the whole being with friends sort of stuff. And another part of the community that have kind of been, well, I would say from my point of view, with social media taking a look at it, a lot of people have been asking this question, saying, when is this happening, when is this happening, is console players. The community wants to know, will American Truck Simulator or even Euro Truck Simulator be coming to consoles?
This is a slightly sensitive question, but I think we have already admitted that we have the development kits for a couple of consoles here in the studio. We've actually seen some pixels on the screen rendered from a console code. So obviously we want to be there. We want to get there. We know of a lot of people for whom their PC is no longer good enough, and they don't want to buy another beefy PC for €1,000 or dollars. If they have a console that's very much capable already sitting in front of their couch. So we're trying. I don't think we'll see anything this year. But who knows about the next year? Okay, that's the best I can answer.
Okay, very exciting to hear. That's good. I'm sure a lot of people will be happy with that answer for sure. And of course, another big one that's come, I guess, from maybe even like the roots and the history of the game, of where SES has come from, where we've seen it in previous kind of earlier versions of the games, for example, 18 Wheels and Stills and stuff, is about asking about different seasons in the game, of course, different environments. People maybe were expecting to see an American Truck Simulator as we go through different states, colder and hotter, obviously New Mexico at the desert, but will we see maybe other weather systems in the future?
Well, in some of the older games, we had the northern regions kind of more snowy a little bit, even though we are always having our game in sort of timeless late spring setting. We think that ultimately the seasons, like full season cycle, is the answer. So we are not now going to pretend that, I don't know, northern Montana is kind of getting snow, while in the south you would have still crops in the fields. So that's not the way to do it. But I'm sure that sooner or later we'll form a task force inside SCS to look into seasons, to see how we can change the world. We have seen fantastic mods getting winter feeling or autumn or whatever. different things. What we need to get it like a smooth system with transitions between the different periods, and to have all the art adjusted to it. And it's not just about having different textures. It's also about in the spring you may have a different type of machine in the field. In the autumn you may have like a harvester there, and then in the spring you may need a snowman to place there. But so we need to look into all this ultimately, and as the games keep growing, as the huge amount of content is being created, this problem is getting like more and more complicated. But at the same time we try to grow the size of the team, the experience in the company. So hopefully these things will catch up sort of with our own production, to be able to look back and see, okay, what can we do with better lighting? Where are they working on it? What can we do with better road signs? We're working on it. What can we do with the older parts of the world? We're working on it with Germany rework, or revisiting of the American states and doing the signage again and better. So seasons will be one such like extra layer or extra projects running in parallel to production of new stuff that will need to start one day. It's not definitely like in the books for now, but this is for sure in the cards, as we hope that these projects have, I don't know, a decade of life in them still. That's like inevitably our future.
And another hot topic from the community, I guess maybe kind of going along with that, but also completely different to Euro Truck and an American truck, would be things that we've talked about, I guess, maybe a year or even more than that now, maybe 2 or 3 years ago on the blog, was the coach DLC. I know a lot of people have been asking about that. They're still seeing bus stations kind of added within the maps, etc. And there's been a lot of people still on that topic of, hey, we've seen some things about this, but is it actually ever going to be a thing?
I've explained this a couple of times, and let's try again for the history. When we released originally those 6 years ago, when we released Euro Truck Simulator 2, we thought, okay, this was a huge project. It's probably never ever going to recoup the costs back. Let's try to find a way to make the next project somewhat cheaper and not require to build a whole new world and a whole new fleet. So we thought the buses would be a natural expansion of the universe of the trucks. So that's how we started kind of designing a new project, that it would be buses mixed in with the trucks as initially DLC. Then we thought a separate project, even because it may require different gameplay naturally when you have people coming and leaving the vehicle on the stops. So we thought, okay, this may be a new game. Then we thought, okay, whatever we are designing for World of Trucks is actually overlapping to a large extent with this feature set. So maybe this is going to be back a DLC. And over the years, we always had somebody working here on this. We had some coaches, vehicles built. We had programmers building some parts of code or AI code, for simulation code, for multiple stops, for planning the routes, displaying them on the map. We had always somebody, but we never managed to put together a well-rounded cross-discipline team to just focus on this, because there was always an urgency, fix this feature of the new upcoming DLC, or optimize this, or we don't have the time to build a new coach, so let's leave it half finished and let's focus on a new vehicle for the truck games. So this is always kind of taking like a second seat, unfortunately, but it's always here. It's never been totally abandoned. There's always somebody working on this, better animations for the people sitting inside the bus. We have seen internally fantastic animations for people, sitting and having, you don't want them like figures just static. You want them to be like alive. So there's always some effort to this. We are always kind of half prepared to restart the projects fully. But we've never grown into the sales scope of the company to be able to say, okay, these 10, 15 people can now go and work on this for a full year and be fully focused on this. As it happened, the world fortunately had a different plan for us. Euro Truck Simulator 2 release and American Truck Simulator 2 release were both a success for us. We had these, half, we're not half, we are way from the finish line. We had this project that started so well, and we had made this commitment, for the fans, we'll continue building those worlds at full pace. We will not, take a break. We'll be pushing hard. So anybody we hire, somebody we throw them into the truck part of the universe. And there's never enough bodies to throw into the coach part of the universe. But this too is going to happen one day. It's not like we have abandoned it. It's just that the focus is not there, unfortunately. So do not expect anything quickly. It's just like somewhere in the future. So long as we get the laugh of the community. So long as we can sell more stuff to you guys. So long as we manage to hire more people, we'll grow into the size to be able to cope with both trucks and coaches, and hopefully more, because the universe really deserves more than just trucks.
Yeah. I know that there's been a lot of communities talking about different types of trucks, or even like vans and cars, and it's always been like a big feature or wish list for a lot of the community. But it's great to hear from you about kind of the whole reason behind that and where it is and kind of sitting right now. I know we've talked about it, of course, in the past in other streams, but there's always new people kind of joining the community and then finding out these things and going, oh, why didn't this happen, or why didn't that happen? And going back to American Truck Simulator now, do you have any long-term goals for American Truck Simulator? Obviously, we've got Washington State coming out, but people are kind of interested in the long-term perspective of it.
Well, we are still at the start, obviously, just when it comes to coverage of the continent. We try as hard as we can. We try to learn how to operate with multiple teams in parallel, how to hire enough experienced people, how to teach enough of our newbies to become experienced and seasoned designers and artists. So obviously we want to cover the whole of the Northern America continent. We just don't want to stop at the US borders. We didn't call it the US Truck Simulator on purpose. We called it American Truck Simulator because we know we have a ton of fans in Canada. We have a lot of fans in Mexico. I'm not saying yet much about the rest of Latin America or the South America. Ultimately, it would be great to cover it too, but we are looking way into the future. But American Truck has to cover the whole of the continent ultimately, and has to have all of the vehicles that are relevant. There's so many things that are on my wish list or on my dream list. We just touched seasons.
Yep.
We touched maybe coaches should drive through the worlds too. There's more vehicles to do. There is so much happening in the engine code with the engine programmers to improve the effects, to improve the light, the shadows, and everything. So the thing is, we want to survive. We want to provide great game for our fans, for the new coming customers, and for the loyal fans. That we're never sitting and resting and this is good enough. We're always looking for ways to improve. So overall, I can imagine in 5 years' time, 8 years' time, this is going to be so much richer experience. So much stuff is getting reworked over the years. So the vision is like the ultimate simulator. The vision is that there'll be so much there that people will just experience a fraction of it and come out so happy and come out just thinking that I could have seen even more. That on its own, it's a great value. I've just seen the West Coast, but I don't have time now for the East Coast ultimately. But I will come back and revisit it in a couple of weeks, and that's great if we have this capability. So we need to grow. The bigger we are, the more value there is in the universe.
Mm-hmm. And we mentioned, well, with some of the teams earlier as well, obviously, between our last release for American Truck Simulator with Oregon and now, we've seen the teams grow quite large in SES. We've been kind of expanding here at the offices and seeing much more growth in the team. And as you're talking with the teams going parallel as well, which is really fantastic to see that growth and to then be able to kind of start to get a glimpse of that vision for the future of the long-term goal of where we'll start getting into more of those states for the future, which is really fantastic to see. And something also great about Washington is our cooperation with Kenworth, with having the Kenworth factory in the game with the piggyback trailers, the parts, and it looks really fantastic. It's a really unique asset to have in the game, and also to have that company based in Washington, to have them appear into the game. And obviously, we'd love to see some more of that kind of content. Can we expect to see any more kind of branded trailer DLCs or kind of factories like that in the future?
Well, we're trying to remind our partners, or even make ourselves visible, that we exist, that this is a cool thing that people appreciate, that our fans love such things. So we're always trying to engage in dialogues that will allow for more. I'm aware of a couple of discussions with trailer manufacturers, both in Euro Truck Simulator 2 as well as American Truck Simulator. I'm aware that we are building some stuff that I will not disclose yet, but we are building some new stuff when it comes to trailers, to branded trailers. Just as with trucks, you never know when this smooth process may eventually take a break because you're getting some approvals or getting some kind of more reference materials that we're waiting for, or a product line changes and you have to catch up with the changes in the product line. Stuff like this has happened over the years and will happen again. But it's not just trucks. We want to build bigger worlds. We want to make bigger fleets. We want to have, more brands in the world because that's what people want. They want to feel that they are really there. So we are definitely going to do something cool about that.
That's fantastic, and it's really, really cool to hear that you do want to get more of those brands involved, because obviously there's always been a lot of talk of from the community that different people want to see different brands in the game. They want to see, the likes of like Scania. They want to see the likes of Tesla and etc. in the game as well. And it really, really special to have that kind of partnership and almost like relationship with those truck brands, to have them in the game, to kind of see the brand, and for the fans to almost, in a sense, enjoy what they have to offer. Because obviously with the Kenworth factory, you see so many unique assets in there. You see different parts, you see how the factory's working, and how that whole operation works. And to have that same sort of kind of thing within American Truck for other brands that are coming, or maybe even for the European brands as well. For example, it would be great to see Scania stuff, and we already have the Volvo factory and stuff like that, but more of those kind of brands included in the whole the map. I think it would be a lot of fun for the community. And so going on to the next question, we're talking about the long-term goals and all the branded DLCs and such. People are asking, how do you go about recording sounds for American trucks that aren't found in Europe? Because obviously we don't have every single truck here, or luckily in the Czech Republic. I mean, we do have a few close by partners that might have a few in stock, but for those more rarer ones that are really widespread across America but hardly found here in Europe, how did our sound recorders go around tracking down those trucks, and what's the process behind that?
Well, obviously this is more difficult for us. We're based in the center of Europe. So people may already have seen a YouTube video of us visiting the Pekar test center, where we had access to a couple of vehicles to record ourselves. The plan is the same with other brands. We have some preliminary indications that we would be invited again to their facilities to do this. We also have some friends at truck dealers when we cannot really, go as high as getting access to the vehicles through the manufacturer. Sometimes this is a trick. We also have some friends in Europe who have import vehicles individually. I believe there's a contact somewhere in France that we may go to and chase the engine sound somewhere in France. So sometimes we have to be inventive. Sometimes, it's so much more difficult than renting a truck here in Prague, but we have to try. We have to fight for getting authentic sounds. So we do.
Of course, and that's always, again, like we mentioned earlier, a big part of the driving experience for all of our players, because they spend so much time in the cab, that those sounds are very important. And it was actually mentioned earlier, not earlier, but on a previous stream that we did, Patrick, we were talking about how the signs were improved in ETS in Scandinavia for the 1.35, and also we see them here in Washington, and how that's such a small difference makes such a large difference within the world of American Truck and Euro Truck. And it's those little things that really count and make the difference when we're doing the details and such like that. And another big topic and a question from the community, which I'm sure a lot of people have been waiting for, in a sense that they've been patient for these kind of things to happen, but they've been asking, will SES be participating in the upcoming Steam sale? Because I know a lot of people obviously have stuff in their wish list. If you haven't already, make sure to add Washington to your wish list as well, and maybe who knows in the future what will come of that.
Well, we always participate in Steam sales, whether it's summer or winter. So this is no secret that people can anticipate that we'll do it again. We always sometimes manage to do a feature and sale outside of the official windows. From time to time, you're allowed to use Steam's facilities to discount. It's not like you can do it anytime you like. It's controlled. There are some sort of quarantines about doing discounts. But from time to time, we want to, push people into decision. So we are definitely going to be part of sales again, especially with the older stuff. Of course, we don't want to discount the newer stuff deeply and quickly, because then we would upset and frustrate people who really support us to buy the new stuff at the launch price. And if you discount very quickly and very deeply, you're kind of, hurting the relation with your most, vocal and loyal fans who do not hesitate to support you immediately. So we keep the value high until the stuff is a little bit old, and then we can go to deeper discounts. So we do participate, and as you mentioned, it's really important to stress out the importance of people adding things into their wish lists, because Steam as a platform is known to have these algorithms and AIs and agents working automatically way back in the back end. And the more people support us by adding our stuff into their wish list, into following us on the developer page, the more there is a hint for these algorithms to serve our games and DLC to the Steam population at large, to become more visible, and then hopefully generating more sales. This more sales means more people here in the studio. More people in the studio mean faster progress. So it's a feedback loop that people can influence, not necessarily just by buying things, but really by following us on Steam, also by engaging in social media, because then the fan base is helping us in the marketing, in the organic marketing thing. So if people are fans and want to see more, they can do their little part in also this kind of soft support.
Awesome. So you heard it here. Make sure you add Washington to your wish list. You can add also the Euro Truck Simulator 2 DLC, Road to the Black Sea to your wish list as well. And get involved on social media, make a kind of a big shout about it. We love hearing from you, and you're also helping support us here. So for everyone that has done that already, a massive thank you to all of you. And going back again, previously, we're talking a little bit about previous little features that we've seen from older games, like in 18 Wheels of Steel, for example. Someone mentioned that you had CB radios in your previous kind of games. Could we see that in ATS in the future? Is it something, again, it's the simulation aspect of, hearing the radio chatter in the background, etc.?
Back those 10 plus years ago, this was a little gimmick kind of feature that really didn't simulate or emulate the full experience. We think the time for it will come once we have true multiplayer or through convoy support. Then it will feel so natural for people to interact with each other, rather than having some robotic pre-recorded sounds like cues popping back to your pressing button 1 to 5. So there's definitely a future for that. It's not something that people can expect this year, but it's in the cards. It's there for sure. It's an expected part of the universe that we envision being like a full experience.
And another thing that's been on the community's mind, which is great timing for this scene here as we're coming down the beautiful cliff logging roads of Washington, is that obviously surrounded by dirt and dusty roads here, is there an opportunity in the future that we'll see, trucks getting a little bit dirty? I know the topic is, again, brought up a lot in the past, but when we're seeing more off-road kind of logging like this, I think people are more eager for it. I mean, what is the thoughts behind that?
Well, we are well aware that people have been requested washing stations. What's the term? Is it the right term?
Yeah, like kind of almost like a car washing, whatever it is.
For years. The technology team is aware of this desire. We have been thinking of adjusting the shaders for vehicles with an extra layer that would allow for dirt to accumulate into it. We found some limitations in the shader system earlier that didn't make it easy. Like, it would be really convoluted solution that we thought, okay, let's wait for some of the other subsystems to catch up to make it more natural. But it's a part of the wish list for sure. Internal wish list here. So I believe that one day we're going to see this. It's not something in the immediate future. Again, I always have to disappoint people that I say, we want this, we'll need this, we'll do it. Not now. But it's there in the future in the list.
Great. And taking it a little bit a step further, which might be a little bit of a different topic, because obviously getting your truck dirty is one thing, but having crash damage is another thing. That's another one that's come up here. I mean, obviously, it's a little bit more of a fragile feature to add because of the nature of it.
Well, crash damage is sensitive. If people recall games that do crash damage, usually it would be without any branded vehicles, because typically brand manufacturers are very sensitive about showing their vehicles with damage somewhere in a screenshot or video, or even just for people to experience this. So this is something that's politically complicated, and sometimes we use it as an excuse, because if you realize that we have to also implement this into the high detail, nice vehicles, to come up with a way to deform the metal and break the glass and everything. So this is something that we may explore some years down the road, but even just for the political pressure, we don't want to frustrate or upset our industrial partners with something they wouldn't like to see. And if we were to do it, we would have to get total agreement from everybody involved. It's not like two of these brands can do this and these two brands are not allowed to do this, because then the game becomes imbalanced. So finding accord between all the parties may be super difficult, and we think we'd rather invest our energy at this point in time into having more vehicles, nicer vehicles, better worlds, more sound effects, and then whatever happens in the future, for now we know what we need to do to get the core experience right. So crash damage is not in neither short-term nor not mid-term plans. And about the long term, anything can happen in the long term. We're here for the long run, so ask me in a couple of years again, and we'll see.
All right, I'll make sure to write that down in my calendar. We'll get that for a couple of years' time on the stream. And we actually have a particular question coming in from the Twitter, asking about the possibility of some new accessories on the trucks. Obviously, there are some trucks in Euro Truck that have sort of accessory kind of tuning packs. But in American Truck, they were asking specifically about having rain caps. Now, that's something I wasn't really too aware of on a truck. It's kind of a very specific detail for trucks that I wasn't too aware of. But what's your thoughts on maybe adding more accessories like that?
We're definitely looking into more categories of accessories over time. Back when the games were launched, there was a limited subset, or almost nothing compared to these days. We have started Euro Truck Simulator 2 with just wheels. Now wheels are multiple parts: the rubber, the tire, and the metal part. And there's definitely more to cover, more to do. People love this, so why stop there? But people have to realize, anytime we add a new layer on top of the trucks, for the new trucks, it takes longer to pull them off, and for any touches that we need to the vehicles, anytime we think, okay, let's do another customizable seat feature or in-cab dashboard improvement, we have to do it across all of the vehicle fleet that's already been put into the game. And that means that any feature we add is a commitment for the future to keep it alive, to maintain the feature. So as it is already, anytime we have to retouch the vehicles, the vehicle team has to go into their 3D Maya and reopen and readjust all of the vehicles. And it's just like one vehicle. Each vehicle is actually a family of shapes, cabin shapes and engines and cabin trims and tuning parts. So one vehicle, when people think of one truck model, truck make, it's actually maybe a 900 parts that make up the different configurations that you can combine into millions of different variants. So for us, adding little thing can, over time, can kind of become an avalanche of touches and retouches and maintenance. We'll definitely be adding more. I mean, with American Truck Simulator vehicles, we were not sure yet about tuning or toys for the interior, for the dashboard. We've noticed that as opposed to European trucks that have plenty of room to put your junk somewhere, American truck dashboards are somewhat more economic about having places to put stuff. Maybe this is all about regulations being stricter in the US. We're still sitting on the fence, deciding, gathering input and feedback from the community or from the other continent. Should we really push harder on having more junk in the cabin? Should we push harder on this or that? I've just recently heard a report that for the hubs, for the rear wheels of a vehicle, there are alternate ways to do it than we do in the game. Should we also open this question? So we are always looking into it. There's always something, happening for improvement. I may not be aware myself of all of that, but when it comes to rain caps,
Yep.
we'll look into it.
Okay, fantastic. Well, there you go. That's more than we could ask for. But, well, as we're coming towards the end of our segment here, a massive thank you again for your time tonight and for answering all those fantastic questions that have come in from our community. But obviously the main subject of today's stream from all the fantastic developers we've talked to in the research team and yourself is, of course, Washington, which is such a beautiful state. It's very unique that it's just got so many different kind of areas that sometimes you forget you're in a city because it's so green, or sometimes you feel like you're in the desert or you're just out in the middle of nowhere and you have beautiful mountains and such. And obviously this is such a big effort from all of the teams involved, and it's really great to see it come to this point where we're nearing the release, and it's a very exciting time for everyone to kind of how to let everyone experience this for themselves. So we want to know, how are you celebrating yourself, the release of Washington? Is there any sort of kind of like extra things you're doing besides obviously our very traditional way of releasing things on Tuesday for the release? Is there anything else extra that's special that you're doing?
We are trying to be better and better about this too, about the release kind of orgy or release process. We have, over the recent years, we have learned to assemble together and have a little celebration, bring some kind of local food. We had pizza for Italia, we had KFC buckets for Oregon. We'll see what we come up with. We think that we may stream some segments of this. So we think the launch will actually be a live stream with us combining somebody driving through the world, then seeing us, push the button. Actually, we have obtained a big button that all of the team will try to grab and reach and press together. I don't know how it's going to look in front of the camera, but we want to make it into like a celebration that will be even like some kind of fun for people to see. And obviously then everybody hopefully is going down to press the buy button and switch and play and forget about our stream. But we want to have something that's also important for the team here, for the company's well-being or the company's culture. We want to have a time when we do celebrate, when we do, feel the relief of having something finally finished and taking a breath for the next step. So we want to celebrate because for the team health, for the kind of inspiration and mental health, being able to work hard and being able to celebrate both are equally important. So that's the plan. We will learn to celebrate even better on Washington State, and we'll go on and get better again in the future.
Well, I look forward to the release for sure, and it's a massive congratulations not only to yourself but all of the teams here that have worked on this, because it is just such a great state and really a lot of detail. For me, the thing that stands out the most is obviously the amount of trees. It's probably the most amount of trees I've ever seen within a DLC. I'm not sure if it's our largest amount, probably I would say. And of course, all the details that have gone into the little things and the landmarks and how they come about. It's really been a fantastic effort. So again, congratulations to yourself and also to all the teams.
Congratulations
as well.
to the team, or big thanks to the team.
Absolutely.
For pulling this off. For the programmers too, not just the map designers or not just the artists, for being able to come back again and again to the engine and find means to optimize things. There's a lot of underlying things that people do not see from year to year that make it a different engine actually, as opposed to whatever we had 3-5 years ago. So we are still on this curve of improvement and growth, and some really cool things are being developed here for the technology. So this is by far not the last people see from us. That's uber cool.
All right. Well, again, thank you very much for your time this evening.
You're welcome.
It's been an absolute pleasure, and thank you for answering a lot of the hot topic and questions from our community. It's been really, really fantastic having you join us in the studio. And well, unfortunately, we are coming to the end of our segment now. So a massive thank you for everyone that's tuned in throughout this the entirety of the stream. But if you've just joined us or you're a little bit late, do not worry. You can rewatch the stream on our twitch.tv/SES Software. There is a video on demand that you can watch after the stream itself. So well, we've talked about so many things about Washington. We've delved into all the different landscapes and how the process works, the creative process, and how the design has happened. And it's been really, really interesting to kind of meet and kind of talk with the team that's all been involved in the process, and of course having Pavel here with us. And we want to give a massive thank you to all of them, and also to everyone involved in this production here today. It's been a massive group effort. A massive thank you to our production behind the screens and behind the cameras. Massive thank you to them, and also a massive thank you to our STIG driver here, David. He's been touring us around Washington on the screen and doing a fantastic job with that. So a massive thank you to you. And of course, a massive thank you for all of you that have tuned in today. Remember, you can add Washington to your wish list on Steam. You'll be notified of its release when it happens. And of course, we'll keep you up to date on all the social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, we're all there. So make sure you do keep up to date with the latest with that. And of course, on our blog as well. And before we disappear, Pavel, is there anything, last words you'd like to say to the community before we wrap up things here in the studio?
Well, all I can think of is, well, thank you. Thanks everybody for supporting us through the years. It's been a fantastic journey from a team of 3 people into a team of 150 plus. And I hope this is not the end. I mean, it's not about the growth, it's about the quality of what we give people, what we can create together. Without the fans, it wouldn't be possible. So long as we have you, we are going to go full steam ahead and create something yet better. Expect more of us. Thank you.
Fantastic. Well, that's all from us here in the studio. We hope you have a fantastic rest of your weekend and enjoy the rest of your evening. We will be rerunning this stream as well a little bit afterwards, so make sure you do tune into that if you did miss parts of it. So from all of us here at SCS here in the Czech Republic, we hope you have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you again another time soon, most probably for the release of Washington itself.
Tuesday is the day.
Tuesday is the day. We'll see you there. Have a good night, everyone. See you. Bye-bye.
Bye.